The moment our fellow geeks, dweebs, nerds, and other unfortunates have been fervently waiting for has finally arrived. It's time for TMI, Confessionals of the Nerd Kind. And now, your hosts, Jeff Nerf Herder Chandler and Jim Kaiju Baker. And now, let's get on with the show. Here is TMI.
I watched both of these movies back to back on a Saturday, a rainy Saturday.
That's the time to do it. You see, I watched him over Thursday and Friday night of this past week.
Yeah, I can't. When I get home from work, I just can't do it. And not only that, but maybe if we talk a little bit about what else have we done on the back end. I've been invested in some sports. I'm going to devote 2 minutes to sports talk at the end of this episode.
At the very end, so don't shy away. Don't shy away.
Feel free to cut it out. There's got to be somebody out there listening who watches sports.
Who is both a geek and watches sports.
Yeah, it can happen. What are we doing today? I think that we are doing something that's maybe unheard of on the show. Unprecedented.
Almost as if it was an episode from the future. It is so ahead of its time. I can't even begin to fathom the consequences and the plausibility of all of this. And we'll get whenever there's time travel involved, it's like, wait a second. How does this work? How does that work? Da-da-da.
I will tell you, I went down the rabbit hole last night because I'm like, wait a minute, this is like a self-fulfilled prophecy. Because yeah, it's what they refer to as a bootstrap paradox.
Oh, really? There's a name for it. Okay.
There's a time travel loop, which is a future event that directly affects a past event, which causes the future event.
Because even Reese says, well, it's a possible future. I'm like, what are you doing here? What's the point of all this?
Yeah, he did kind of back out of that really quick.
Yeah.
So
maybe he's just trying to make her feel better. But
well, I think he's trying to make himself feel better. He just sacrificed his life. It's like, wait a minute. So you go back in time, you get laid, future. But beyond that, really,
that was basically his goal. Terminator,
stealing clothes.
Terminator 1 and Terminator 2 is what we are covering.
Terminator 1 and Terminator 2. We are 342 episodes into this series, and this is the first time we are... Oh, no, that's not true. We did talk Terminator Genesis? No, what was the last one?
Dark Fate?
Dark Fate. You are correct. Is that the one where he was Carl?
He was married and just living his life. It wasn't supposed to be the guy from T2, was it? Because he's destroyed.
See, here's I don't know. I don't even want to start delving into the 3, 4, and 5 movies because these two alone are enough to just fine. Just stop it now.
Because I could see the Terminator, the Arnold from T2. You know, he was a sensitive guy, so
yeah, sure. Well,
I could see him marrying, settling down.
Well, listen, Skynet went out of their way to give this guy a penis. Why? You see it large and in charge in the first 2 minutes of this movie, and you're like, wait a minute, why would
like
they
a pendulum? Like a pendulum.
Like a pendulum. Bill Paxton's head's just going back and forth. Like, yo, man, you want some clothes?
Yeah, no, he actually beat them with it while he was swinging it around like a weapon. Yeah.
Oh, we're getting bawdy already. So is this a double 5 bucket theater? Are we talking 10 buckets here?
It could be. It could very well be.
I mean, these two movies.
At least one of them, I will say, is a 5 bucket for me.
Interesting. Do I have to guess which one it is? I got a 50-50 shot.
You got a 50-50 shot. Yeah. Let's wait till the end. Wait till the end.
But we can't. So we're going to have to delve a little bit into. We got to dive into James Cameron himself a little bit. I'm hoping that we right.
Yeah, because of course.
This guy does not. Watching these two movies back to back is quite fascinating.
Because as we were talking about before we hit record, callbacks that you may not necessarily have picked up on if you just saw T2, in the theater and years apart from T1.
Well, what is there, a 7-year gap? And there's a reason for that we can talk about eventually.
Yeah, 7-year gap. So,
7-year.
yeah, and even myself seeing T1 numerous times throughout the 80s didn't catch some of these callbacks in T2.
No. Like I said, literally watching these movies back to back, it's very eye-opening. And you have to give credit to Cameron, because this first movie, like, shoestring budget, this guy's first-time director, and he's just out there doing his thing. Studio doesn't want him attached to this.
Well, not quite, because he did do Piranha 2.
For 2 weeks. He got fired. He got fired. So he has to go through that, right, to get to this point. As the story goes, this entire concept came out of a fever dream. He was literally laying in his deathbed with 110 fever.
People like Cameron don't have dreams. They have fever dreams. So it's better dreams than you and I would have.
Well, Harlan Ellison will tell you otherwise, but Cameron has gone on to say, well, maybe I did kind of pick and choose from some of these Outer Limit episodes I used to watch when I was a kid.
Maybe.
Harlan Ellison was
did.
like, wait a minute, that looks just like my story. $65,000 later.
So, did you see the original Terminator in the theater?
No. So here's what I'm going to tell you. So Terminator, the first movie, dropped 1984. It came out October 26, 1984, only in like 1,000 theaters.
Yes.
So it wasn't a big release. And I will tell you this, I owe whatever interest I have in this movie to my friend John Eckensterner, who was my high school buddy, who his dad was very ahead of his time and used to take his kids to the movie theater all the time. And John came back on a weekend and they had seen this movie, and he spent like an hour giving me every blow by blow of this movie. Like, I can, in my head, I get, very passionately describing every scene in this movie, to the point where I'm like, that sounds amazing. But I don't think I saw it until it dropped on VHS a year later.
Now, I have a similar story because my dad was that dad, taking me to the movies every weekend. So he was very much looking for stuff to take me to, and he probably saw the glowing review in the local paper, which I'm sure that it was a good review. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been interested. And we went to go see this in the now long defunct Duchess Mall movie theater, the same place where I saw E.T., by the way.
Okay.
Here I am 2 years later, and I was very new to the whole world of R-rated movies.
I was going to say, this is the same dad who wouldn't let you go see Alien because it was R-rated.
Right. Well, there's 5 years in between these things. I was 8 years old when Alien came out, but I was 13 when Terminator came out.
So you're right by age.
So I was right there, feeling like I was the coolest kid in the world, and I thought it was the greatest thing I had ever seen. There's no other movie like
that point.
And now I also was a huge Road Warrior fan, because back at that time I was so heavily into Matchbox and Hot Wheels. I loved the car chases in every movie, and this one I think just even blew away the Road Warrior. I know that's quite a statement.
This is why you're such a big fan of the Fast and Furious?
Yeah, no, I've seen maybe one of those. At the time, I was a big fan of car chases.
Not so much now.
It didn't seem to stop. I'd never seen an action movie with that much action in it before. Even James Bond movies, you kind of had to get through. Yeah,
you got the
exposition.
You got the talking. You got the talking points. You got the I need to shag this baby.
Yep.
This is until T2 comes out, and then you're like, oh, this guy stepped up his game.
Yeah.
This movie really is a slow crescendo, but boy, once it hits on all cylinders, once they get to that tech noir dance club and all three of those storylines merge, it is balls to the wall.
I have to tell you, though, that is a trope, if we want to call it that I don't really appreciate.
What?
A lot of filmmakers lean into slow motion walking through the dance floor. I'm like, why?
Okay, but who started that? Did Cameron start that?
No, but even if he didn't start that, then, just using it is like, is this supposed to
I
be dramatic? All these 80s people dancing, it's
Yes. I was fascinated watching them because if you go back, I probably still dance like that.
that's
You
why
don't.
I hate the rave and the Matrix too so much.
Oh
Maybe
no, that was just bad. That you can't even. So you're telling me that this is a trope that you weren't fond of?
the
This
slow walk through the
reveal.
dance floor. Yeah, no,
Yes, with
it's not.
with that song playing. I didn't even realize that's a real song. That is a Tawny Kane and the Triangles.
Well, I just assumed that they did it for the movie. That it's
No,
not like a.
apparently this is no. It's on the soundtrack, but it's actually a real song. But I was more upset with the $4.50 cover charge. I'm like, what? Really? 50 cents? Just round it up. Yeah. So if you watch the first 20 minutes of this movie, it's just two naked guys stealing clothes.
Yeah,
They're like the kleptonators. I want your clothes. It's like, okay.
and apparently there is like a full J.C. Penney, like in the worst neighborhood in L.A.
Yeah,
that Reese breaks into.
That was like a Goodwill store gone bad. Although I will say that those sneakers that Reese steals are apparently very iconic.
They're Nikes, right?
They're Nike. They're Nike. Hold on one second. I have it. Nike Vandals. They're Vandal High model.
Did they call them vandals because Reese steals them?
I don't know. He took my pants. He just runs around in hobo pants the rest of this movie.
Oh, those pants must smell so bad.
Ugh.
So bad.
This is also one big advertisement for Ma Bell because the entire movie hinges on payphones.
Yeah, just like the X-Files hinged on old cell phones. Can't have this
Yeah.
movie without payphones.
No. If everyone had a cell phone, this movie would be over in a heartbeat.
It would.
Yeah, Sarah. Yeah,
And
yeah, this is
answering
the
machines.
police.
Answering machines play a big
I did
part.
love that the little touch where Ginger leaves the message and she goes, "Machines need love too." And oh my god, boy, that's not going to age well in about 5 minutes.
Ginger, talk about a trailer moment. You're dead, honey. That's what I remember from the trailer.
Oh, that was her girlfriend in the Waitress. Ginger was the roommate.
Oh, that wasn't Ginger. It was somebody
Ginger's
else.
the roommate, and I will
You're
tell
dead,
you,
honey.
Ginger is a hottie, but she has very ex-wife vibes. So I had to temper it. She's got that Susanna Hoff kind of hair. Yeah, she doesn't make it out of this.
Nope. Doesn't listen to people either.
Well, she's got her headphones on
Yeah.
the whole time.
When T1 for this viewing started, I was wondering, was this always an Orion movie? I guess it was.
It is. There's a lot of. It's weird because I think it's changed hands a couple times. I watched it on Blu-ray, and I'm going to tell you right now, the transfer is unbelievable.
Yes, I
It
did
is
as well.
gorgeous. But if you watch, there's a bunch of behind-the-scenes featurettes on this Blu-ray, and it looks like they're clearly just ripped right from the VHS tape. But you're right. At the beginning, I mean, we're getting 20th Century Fox Entertainment logos, and then Hemdale, and then MGM, and then Orion, and then Carol Co. Home Video. It's like this is why it took 7 years for the sequel, because the rights were tied up.
Yes, he sold them for $1 just to get it
sold
made.
it to his future ex-wife for $1. How about that coming back
she
and
could
bite
hold
you in the
that.
buttocks?
Yeah, she could hold that right over his head.
Jim, you want to make a sequel to this?
Yeah. Remember that time you yelled at me 5 years ago?
Yeah, great. Well, I think he wrote The Abyss just because of his divorce from her. That's the whole storyline. He just threw aliens in there at the end. So I find him fascinating because he was a truck driver. And then when he saw Star Wars in 1970, so he grew up in Canada, came here in 71, went to school, dropped out. He went for physics, but he was a truck driver. And when he saw Star Wars, he was just like, I got to do this.
Even as a truck driver, when he would go to the truck stops and pay for gas, he'd leave. And then the attendant was, that guy was pushy.
Yeah, there are some stories. But so we talked about the fact that he was fired 2 weeks into directing Piranha 2, but that wasn't until 82. So 2 years prior to this. Before that, he was working with Roger Corman. He actually was doing some of the miniature set building and art directing on Battle Beyond the Stars.
As so many future filmmakers did work with Roger Corman.
Yeah. So that was 1980. And one of the famous stories is that he was literally living out of his car. So he would stay in the studio like around the clock. He had nowhere to go.
Did he park next to Jim Carrey's car, who's also living out of his car?
He did. They hung out, Jim and Jim. It was a sitcom. It didn't last more than a season in 82. I don't know. Bosom buddies.
And they're both Canadians, I believe.
But there's a very famous scene or story where he is set dressing one of the inside of the spaceships for this Battle Beyond the Stars. And it's fascinating if you go back and watch this movie now. He lined the inside of the walls with the styrofoam trays that were handed out at the cafeteria catering service.
Like what you used to get like in McDonald's when they give you...
Not even, almost like they were like form-fitting that had like different shapes. Oh. Almost like those Swanson dinners that we used to get, the TV dinners that were tin, but these were like the eco-friendly styrofoam. And he spray painted them and just put them all over the wall to give like this really weird texture thing. And Corman came in the next day and was like, "You're a freaking genius." And
he's like, "Yeah, I know."
Yeah, exactly. He was like, "It's about time. It's about time you recognize my genius." Yeah, he's a little full of himself. But I think it's
justified.
It's justified. Not then.
Well, I think you need that, right? You need that confidence.
But it just
maybe there would be no Terminator without that.
That is true. That probably is true. It just seems like it's off-putting, but maybe in that industry you need to be that guy. I don't know if this is going to be good. I don't know. You got to step up and be like, "Yeah, I'll take charge. I'm in it." Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a famous story when he was doing second unit shots for Galaxy of Terror. And his whole job was just shooting like these mealworms that were supposed to be maggots on a severed arm. And he figured out a way to put an electric current into them so that when they plugged it in, the worms would start squirming around. So he waited until an executive was walking by, had his assistant plug it in, said action, the worms started moving. And then when he yelled cut, they unplugged it and the worms all stopped moving.
The worms even are like, what a jerk.
Worms are afraid of him. We got to get this guy a movie. So yeah, it wasn't like right out of the gate though. Like he had to do a little bit of a push to try and get this movie made.
But yeah, as you said, fever dream. I think the story is he dreamed of he was being chased by like an endoskeleton, like you see at the end of this,
literally coming out of the flames,
with knives, and it was just a torso, and it was dragging itself across the ground with the knives. So, and it came from there. So, and the fascinating thing is the first idea for the first Terminator did include the T-1000, which was the liquid metal Terminator that we would see in the sequel. But of course,
you're like, we can't do this.
Yeah. Couldn't do it at the time.
No. How about we just get a ball of mercury and we'll electric shock it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not going to work, Jim.
So. I'm surprised that they didn't, just do it anyway. But thankfully, they waited the 7 years.
Yeah, there was something else I learned, which was the attack on Cyberdyne was actually filmed for the first movie. And then he rightly cut it. And then it was like, well, that's good because now I'm going to use that as the main storyline for the sequel. I don't know where that would have fallen in the within the story arc of the first movie itself. There's a lot going on. There's a chase. Yeah,
the first movie did not need all that backstory and exposition. You just knew just enough, and you knew that this thing was unstoppable, and that was the whole point of Terminator 1.
We get him right from the beginning. We get right out of the gate. We get that opening shot in the future. With the tank
skulls,
the tank treads rolling over the skulls.
Now you saw the bonus features all done with forced perspective, just genius.
Yeah, no, between Stan Winston and Dennis Muren from ILM kind of steps in during the second movie, but these are all miniatures. These are
little
all
tiny skulls.
Rear projection. It's all model work. There's a couple scenes that still don't hold up on the Blu-ray, but for the most part, they've gone back in and color corrected. Because one thing is, two of the fakest scenes in these two movies are just the actors in a car with the rear projection, like they're really driving down the road.
And what's funny is there's a lot of really good rear projection, like when Linda Hamilton is running away from the exploding truck at the end.
Oh, yeah.
You can still tell, but it's done well, so it makes you think, oh, that's pretty good.
No, and this thing's like 10 feet behind her. And Reese throws a bomb in there, and then he hides. I'm like, did you tell her to duck? No. It's like, I hope she lives.
This'll toughen her up.
Right. So the opening shot with the future Los Angeles 2029, and everything's just a desert landscape. You got skulls everywhere and just these big machines rolling over everything. And then you go into that fantastic opening title with that now very, very iconic.
Yes. And the title is crossing over itself until.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. It's beautifully done. And I've always attributed Cameron with coming up with that music, because I guess I do equate him a lot to like John Carpenter in the sense that he's a very hands-on guy, but Brad Fiedel, that's his score, and that's just him banging on a cast iron frying pan.
Apparently he was trying to capture the heartbeat of the robot with that, and he succeeds. It's very robotic. It's so unrelenting,
iconic, and it's just. The funny thing is, because it's that early 80s, like everyone's like, oh, let's get a synthesizer. That's very futuristic, but it holds up. It holds up.
It does. And the funny thing is he's telling a story, this Brad Fiedel, about, I wasn't that excited about it. It's just another B movie. And then I actually saw the footage. Yeah. And suddenly I had my cool turn to, I have to do this.
You got a little scared?
A little scared that he wasn't going to get it.
You got to step it up. You got to step up your game, my friend. Well, he did. But from there, we cut right to what you think is another giant robot, and it's the garbage truck.
It's the garbage truck. Let me tell you, this garbage truck driver is the MVP of the movie. What the hell? What
the cigar hanging out, right?
Yeah.
Listen, he's like 3 a.m. He's like driving around the back streets of L.A., picking up garbage.
Abandons his truck and gets out of there. The smartest character in the movie.
Yeah. And he's like, what the? I don't know what's going on. And boom, naked Arnold in tip-top shape.
When Michael Biehn comes from the future, a few minutes after the Arnold scene, he's like got the Frankenstein's bride shock hair, like sticking straight up. Right. And you assume it's because, it's the electric current or whatever.
Sure.
Arnold's cool as a cucumber. He's got that floppy 80s hair going. Doesn't happen to Arnold, I guess maybe because he's a robot or whatever. Arnold should have the Bride of Frankenstein hair as well, but he didn't.
Interesting. Well, they also, poor Reese materialized about 6 feet off the ground. So he doesn't get a hero landing. He flops.
Yes, he does.
Like he slaps to the ground. But yeah, we see Arnold's approach these three. Is this how hooligans dressed in 1984?
No,
because they look like they're going to an 80s party.
So you got Bill Paxton as one of them. And then the other guy, I don't know the actor's name, but he's the shapeshifter from the X-Files that was in
get out of here.
So many episodes of the X-Files. Okay. And he's the one that gets his heart ripped out as the shapeshifter.
I wish it was Tony Bennett. Then he could have sang, I left my heart in Los Angeles.
I left my heart in the Terminator's band.
I do have to ask, why did Skynet give them genitalia? It just seems like an extra feature you didn't have to go to.
And here's another. So Michael Biehn comes in, and again, he takes the pants off the homeless guy, which is a bad idea. And he's like, Michael Biehn feels wet for the rest of the movie.
Oh, moist even.
But he's also has another trailer moment. What year?
Oh yeah. Yeah, what's the date?
What's the date? It's May 12th. What year? Carl. Walking Dead callback. Thank you very much.
So they're both on the run. They both have clothes now.
The police are on to Reese, but again, cool Arnold. They have no idea.
But this guy all he did was take the bum's pants. Is that really worthy of you hunting them down? Were you just bored that night?
I guess so.
The guy just killed 3 guys.
Are they going to arrest the bum as well, just for being in the alley?
I think he might have been their informant. He was like Huggy Bear.
He stole my pants. He did what? All right,
exactly. Then. That's it. We got to hunt him down.
Yeah. Can I have a sandwich? No.
But this, I want a sandwich. Nobody eats in this movie.
No.
Except, not even a little kid. He takes his ice cream and puts it in her.
I know. Sarah Connor is the worst waitress.
So is this like her first day?
You would think so.
because she was not very good at what she was doing. But yeah, we meet Sarah. So happy-go-lucky Sarah, late for work. She's working at Big Jeff's, by the way, which I don't know if I ever caught that as the name of the restaurant. And she calls
Big Jeff's?
Yeah, it's called Big Jeff's.
Oh, they can't call it Big Boys, right?
Well, the little statue out front was very big boy-ish. He's a ceramic mascot holding 2 burgers. She calls them Big Buns. Watch my car there. Yeah. Big Buns.
I'll be out in about 5 minutes, so don't worry. I won't be long.
But correct. But did you notice the date on her time card?
No.
May 19th, 1984. We are recording this May 18th.
Oh. Transition from the worst waitress of all time to the worst attendant in a gun shop of all time. Dick Miller.
Dick Miller. Now, this is all like he could have easily just walked in there, killed this guy, and then taken the guns. But no, we have to go through this. I want a 12 gauge autoloader super shotgun.
Get me that one. Yep. The
Uzi. You're right. And then the 9mm Uzi. And then he asked for the phase plasma rifle and a 40-watt range. If you're from the future, you have to know that that's not even a gun yet. I was kind of hoping.
He loads up right there in front of Dick Miller. Hey, you can't do that.
Sure, I can. So this guy's dead. Reese steals the shotgun out of the police car, by the way. Later on, he's loading it with shotgun shells. Where'd he get those shells from? Did he steal them from the store after he stole sneakers?
I don't know, maybe the police bought a box from Dick Miller earlier in the day.
Hey, let's go over here to the gun shop. This guy's dead too. There's a lot of chaos going on here.
And this is also when right after he steals the guns and kills Dick Miller, he goes through the phone book. And he goes to the first Sarah Connor. I love this scene. Sarah Connor. Yes.
I never, like a moron, he shoots her once and then just unloads on the ground. I'm like, why is he shooting the ground? I'm like, you idiot, because she fell and he's shooting her. You're going to tell me. So then eventually we find out that she's a mother of 2. She's 35 years old. There's no way this woman is 35
There's no
years
way.
old.
There's no way. She had a rough life.
In her 40s.
She had a rough life, this woman.
She has a cameo in Jingle All the Way, by the we talked about this in Jingle All the Way.
Do you have a Turbo Man? Yes.
She's a lady crossing the street and he tries to steal her Turbo Man. I wish he just shot her then. Taking a Turbo Man, that would be a better movie.
The other iconic image is Arnold's stolen car rolling over that toy truck as well.
So that's a motif that comes back multiple times. So it's a tractor trailer cab, which is it's a foreshadowing of the truck scene later in the movie and at the end. But there's multiple scenes where the Terminator is stepping on things. Whether he's crushing the Ginger's earbuds from her Walkman. There's a scene in the second movie where he's stepping on the roses, and the T-1000 steps on his sunglasses. So there's like this little repeat motive. But if you watch this, you realize that Cameron tends to shoot Arnold Schwarzenegger at an up angle. He's never really seen at like eye level. The camera is always like chest level up. So it just gives him the kind of like this menacing appearance.
Right.
Which I found fascinating. It's the camera at a low angle. And like I said, there's some like these future flashbacks, Reese falls asleep and he has this dream and you get a little bit sense of like, to me, that they feel very John Carpenter-ish. I guess maybe just the tone. I don't know. Maybe the cinematographer and the director of photography have a lot to do with that.
It could be. It could be. But
like I said before, the Blu-ray, the transfer on some of the stuff is just phenomenal. And there's that scene when Reese falls asleep and it's a flashback to the future, which is in and of itself. It's like, oh, it's a memory of something that hasn't happened yet, but it happened to me. And they're escaping from these hunter killers, these flying robot things. They're shooting at them. And I always felt so bad for that guy that's sticking out of the top of the truck with the gun. I'm like, that guy was dead long before they ever crashed because his spine had to have been shattered.
I know. And the driver of that truck is like, hang on, buddy.
We're not getting out of this. We are not getting out of this.
And that poor woman that gets vaporized, the other soldier that was with Reese, looks like one of the minions that gets blown up by Evil at the end of Time Bandits. You just see meat flying everywhere.
That's correct. Yeah, she was slaughtered. So if you grew up, so we find out that he doesn't have any memory of what the world looked like before the robots took over. So why are they mounting a resistance?
Because John does. John remembers.
Because the robots went in time and told his mom that he's going to birth the leader of the resistance. This is where the time paradox comes in. If they don't go back in time, John Connors just grows up and be a regular guy.
This is true, but maybe they don't realize that.
He'll die.
And also, so think of it this way. What is the whole point of them doing this? Do they send the Terminator back and then sit there, look at their watches? Anytime now, they'll all be gone.
Reset? And if he fulfills his mission, what is he going to do with his time? That's what I'm saying. Does he just retire and become that Carl guy?
So as he said, when he says a possible future, so this means if there's multiple futures, which we know, watching other movies, especially Marvel, there's different timelines. So this timeline that Skynet sends the Terminator back in is not going to change. It's going to change another. What's the point of them doing it? They're not changing their situation.
Into the Doc Brown philosophy of a divergent timeline. Yes, you are correct.
Yeah,
it's not. It can't directly affect the future because the future's already happened.
Yeah.
So this is where your time paradox comes in, which is you are looping, you are creating an event that you are now trying to fight against. You set this in motion. Yeah,
and so John Connor in the future apparently always knew that Reese was his father. Because Sarah tells him.
And you're right. You have to send him back. Otherwise, you're never born. She literally says that at the end of the movie. We see the photograph. Reese has been carrying this photo, this Polaroid. We also find out, which I didn't really pick up on, that Reese is a virgin because she starts asking at one point about, women. What are women like in your future? And he goes, there's not anybody special. And he goes, no, never.
Because his girlfriend blew up before he had a chance. That's why.
You think that they were romantically involved?
They could have been. It's possible.
I think you'd have to be very careful procreating in the future. I'm not bringing a baby into this world. Talk
about another classic line, come with me if you want to live, which has been repeated so many times.
Yeah, come with me. Yeah, and again, this is a beautiful callback. Not that I want to jump between movies, but the second movie subverts all of what's happening in this movie. It flips everything around. And that's why I think it's also genius, not only because of the action and the special effects, which are groundbreaking, but the fact that you are changing everything right up from, in this movie, bad guy lands first and then the good guy. And you don't really know until that tech noir scene who's like, Sarah just assumes that she's finding out that all these Sarah Connors are being killed. And it's amazing that this lady gets killed and the cops are all over it in like a heartbeat.
And why are the cops just trying over and over again to call? Just go to the apartment.
Right. Yeah. I left a voice on her answer machine.
She wasn't there. She wasn't
there. Right. Yeah. Meanwhile, Ginger's getting nailed. That bathroom, there's that scene where the girls are in the bathroom getting ready for their dates. That bathroom looked like Diddy's house after a freak off. That was disgusting. There were so many fire hazards. Oh, I never noticed she was wearing a Jetsons shirt.
No, I didn't either. And I thought I would have picked up on that as a 13-year-old, but no, I had no idea.
Yeah. But of course, her date dumps her.
So let's fast forward. So Sarah makes it out of the tech noir situation with Reese, and she's very still distrustful of him because he sounds crazy, even though that this monster is chasing them.
He's unloading the shotgun on this guy who clearly is going to shoot and kill Sarah.
Yeah.
She assumes that it's Reese because he's the creepy looking one that's friggin' stalking her. And at first I'm like, how does he even know? I'm like, oh yeah, he has a picture. Until these three storylines converge in tech noir, where you're like, and now it's like information overload dump. where they're in the car and they're just escaping, and you got Arnold's, thrown through the window. He gets right back up and he jumps on the car. He's on fire. I did see it.
And at this point, he has no eyebrows. So from this point on, he looks like Frankenstein.
Catch that. It is, they burn off, but his hair's still there.
But his hair is like all now sticking up, right?
Yeah.
So it looks like he's got a Frankenstein wig and no eyebrows from this point on in the movie.
So my disc had this little vignette between James Cameron and Arnold Schwarzenegger talking.
Yes, mine did as well.
And first of all, Cameron looks like Dave Coulier from a stupid TV show, but it's
Full House.
Full House. There you go. But he was talking about the fact that they're dumping acid on him to make it look like he's steaming, and he's like, that burned. I'm like, I think OSHA should have been on this. The scene where he punches out the glass window, like they guerrilla warfare there. They went out and they had no permits on the street. Cameron's hiding behind another car. All right, go over there and punch that window out. And he just punches the window out and then takes the car.
Yeah, I watched that and I'm like, wait a second. Does that mean it wasn't even fake glass? He just
punched the window. And because he even says, he goes, the fact that I told you to do that and you didn't even flinch at that, you were more worried about getting caught by a police that we were filming without a permit. Out of control.
Now, let's pause for a second and talk about Arnold himself. Now, he wasn't the commodity that he later became in the 80s. This movie did that for him. He was Conan, which, I knew him from, me and my friends knew him from Conan. We knew him from The Villain, which played on HBO over and over and over again.
I know what that movie is, The Villain?
It was a comedy Western with Kirk Douglas as the bad guy who had kidnapped, I think, Anne Margaret, and Arnold was the sheriff chasing him throughout the movie, trying to arrest him. So it's a comedy, and I thought it was really funny, and I knew him from that.
It was a Western?
It was a Western. It's called The Villain.
On horseback.
I don't think he spoke that much, and he didn't in Conan. So then after Conan, immediately the sequel came out, Conan the Destroyer.
Yep.
So Arnold was Conan when the Terminator was released. That's what most people knew him as. And as a matter of fact, even though Arnold is all, sunshine and roses, talking about how he knew the Terminator was going to be a big hit in this bonus feature, I'm reading some quotes from an interview he did on the set of Conan the Destroyer, which he filmed right before he did Terminator. The interviewer asked him about the boots he was wearing on set, but obviously not in the movie. He's just wearing them on set. And he goes, "Oh, they're from some movie I'm doing in a couple of weeks," meaning the Terminator.
Yeah, but he read for Reese.
He did, but Cameron didn't see him as that, and he didn't see himself as Reese.
Neither did Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
And I think when the two of them met, they both walked away going, this guy's the Terminator. And Arnold's camp did not want him to do this. You're playing a robot? Come on, dude.
But apparently he had no confidence in this, according to that quote. But then once he saw the dailies, he changed his tune.
Well, he said yes after James Cameron went home and painted a picture of Arnold with the robot half face and sent it to his office. This is what we're going to do to you. And he's like, I am in. Let's do it. So, yeah, you're right. Hindsight's 2020. These guys are like, yeah, it was going to be huge. It's going to be big. Yeah. Is that why you sold the rights for $1? You can hold.
But he had to. I think when you do something like that, you're up against the wall.
Well, I mean, this is Lucas, the famous story of George Lucas, basically selling everything except retaining the toy rights to Star Wars, just so he could make this movie.
Yeah.
So.
But Arnold ended up playing the Cyberdyne Systems Model 101, a cybernetic organism, which means he's a robot on the inside, but it's living human tissue on the outside.
Right.
The 600 series had rubber skin, but we could spot them easy. I wish they would show one of the 600 series. That would be pretty funny.
Just like a mannequin from Macy's.
He's trying to infiltrate the resistance. Don't mind me.
But it just seems like a lot of work by the robots.
Why don't the robots just nuke them again?
Right. They have I mean, that's exactly what happened, right?
They don't need like fresh air or anything to survive. The robots.
No, they don't care. They don't care how the air is. And again, these humans are fighting for what reason? Your world is destroyed. Looks like a lot of work to set that back up. This is why when the zombie apocalypse comes, I want to be the first to get eaten. I don't need to live in this world. I'm going to have hope. Hope for what? I don't know. But yes, so these Skynet has created these human-like robots, and they've decided, well, these guys are a problem. So why don't we create a time machine, we go back and just kill the guy who's leading them. That'll stop it. Okay. Seems kind of flawed.
It does.
We'll just kill his mom before
like I said before, and then they send the robot back, and then they're okay, now what? Now what happens?
Well, we send the robot, right. All right. Like you said, they're sitting there watching their go. Any minute now, it's going to change. Things are going to be better, babe. Humans are going to be
or alternately, because they don't even know if this thing succeeded. If it's an alternate timeline,
no,
they could just keep sending robots back to the same point in time. So there's like a million Arnolds.
Done.
Yeah,
every 10 minutes, just send another one.
Yep.
No, we're going to send one. That's good. He's got it. He's got it.
Well, Reese, I think, does say that they destroyed the machine when they sent him back, so he can't come back. Didn't they say that?
I believe that is right. It's just him and me, which I found interesting that he referred to it as a him, not as an it, because later on he chastises Sarah for giving it proper pronouns. It's like, it's an it. And it will not stop. And there's that great scene. So again, the exposition dump where, they hide in a parking lot and she's, she doesn't trust this guy. She's like, what the hell is going on here? I just saw you shoot that guy multiple times. She tries to bite him because it was just like, listen and understand that Terminator's out there. It can't be bargained with. It can't be reasoned with. It doesn't feel pity or remorse. And it will not stop ever until you are dead. It's like, all right, dude, calm down, chill. Just he's on a mission. Apparently to get laid.
And he's successful. He is at least successful.
Now, what if that didn't happen? John Connor sent him back, knowing that guy's his father.
He gave him some Banaka, and
some of the only left on the planet.
Yeah.
Well, at one point he does give that I came back, I came across time for you, Sarah. I've always loved you. I always have, or what, something like that. I'm like, that is the hottest pickup line ever. So you're a time traveler who came all the way back just for me. All right, you can get my pants.
Fell in love with her picture, I think, or her stories, or from John. I don't know.
There is that scene where he recites something that John told him to remember and say to her. And the first thing he says, thank you, Sarah. It's like, why would John Connor call his mom by her first name? Wouldn't you refer to her as mom?
He's a tough guy. He doesn't say that.
Mom.
You don't drop names like that.
No, not in this movie. The second movie, we get a glimpse of John Connor as
a whiny little kid.
No, I'm talking about in the future. You see him as a general.
Well, yeah, you do see there's no way that translates to the whiny kid that's also in that
correct.
movie.
Especially if you watch any of that special features and you see what Ed Furlong looks like now. Yeah. Why me? And this is where he tells her that she is the mother of the resistance. It's John who's going to lead the humans to retake the Skynet and take down the robots and rebuild humanity. And her response, well, at least now I know what to name him. You don't even have that choice.
No, you don't. Nope. Now, this goes into another car chase, which ends with a great crash test dummy crash into the wall of the underside of a bridge, where Arnold's vehicle just goes right through, and you see him just flopping around in the car. The police show up, and then they look at the car, and Arnold's gone.
He's gone.
Why does he go? He can just kill everybody.
You're correct.
He doesn't have to hide.
He's got to go back to that apartment he was renting.
Well,
I think the Kurgan actually rented that same apartment.
Yeah, I know. It was like they pass each other in the night.
Yes. How you? Okay. There can be only one. I am the one.
Even the Kurgan's like, I don't like that guy.
No, correct. That hairy guy that was mopping up is like, put a shirt on before you clean up my room. Disgust me. If you a-hole, I do like this is also fun where you get the point of view of the Terminator. So you get the red with the readouts and stuff. Most of it's nonsensical crap. It's this computer gibberish, but it's a very effective.
So he goes back to the hotel room to put shades on.
Well, so
basically,
so this is the great thing, which is, when we first see Arnold, he is 100% human specimen. He is peak muscles, tone. And as he's getting shot at, as he's getting beat up, as he's getting some of these, bullet holes to the face and especially smashing into the wall, his outer skin is starting to tear apart. So you're starting to see these robotics underneath, which for the most part are pretty solid. I think when they originally showed him the special effects makeup, he was like, how are you going to make that work? And he's like, we're going to do it. But you watch these specials and, the Stan Winston studio made a Arnold Schwarzenegger head that was animatronic. So like the scene where he's pulling out his eyeball, clearly it's not, he's pulling it from the side of his head. But the mirror shots where you see the eyeball for the first time, the robot eyeball and the red dilating or whatever. It does look like it's faked. It's not really Arnold, but it's solid enough special effects. And then when he puts the shades on, then they cut back to the real Arnold.
Yeah, it's actually
and then going forward, you can hide that, but
you can tell it's not Arnold, but it's still pretty horrific. The visual.
Yeah, no, just the blood drops in the water. Yeah. In the sink, and then he pulls out the eyeball. As
a matter of fact, I thought that the fake head looked cooler than his real one.
It's like somebody probably still has that.
Yeah.
He probably has that in a glass container somewhere.
So this is where we meet the psychologist, the police psychologist, because Sarah gets arrested.
A real piece of crap.
He's just because tell me again the story, just so he can laugh at him.
Yeah, so this is so like you said, Arnold crashes into the police car. He escapes. Reese immediately goes on defense, and she's like, no, they're gonna kill you. So now they're in police custody, Sarah and Reese.
And this is the show-stopping moment of this movie. This is what cemented it in my head as the best action movie I'd ever seen, is Arnold's walk through the police department. But before he gets there, he has the iconic line that Schwarzenegger was never able to shake from this point on.
He actually argued with Cameron over this ad nauseum, because he's like, I'm a robot. Why would I, contract? I will be back. No, I'll be back. Just say it. Just say it, please. And I guess he fought with him for quite a while before he actually. And it got a big laugh. I remember in the theater. Well, he does come back 5 more times, 5 more movies for that matter. But in here, he just
talk about a crash test dummy. That cop flails every which way. Yeah. But he then walks through slowly, methodically, takes out Lance Henriksen, so he does not survive this movie.
Yeah, it's too bad. Even in Paul Winfield. No, it's Winfield.
It was Winchell. Winchell is Tigger, right?
Paul Winchell was Tigger. Yeah. Woo-hoo! There's a robot outside. Yeah. But before he actually comes in, they're trying to, Sarah, just rest, relax. They let her watch the interrogation of Reese. So when all of a sudden he's like, don't you get it? He'll never stop. That's all he does. And they're like, all right, can you turn this off? You're traumatizing this woman. Yeah.
He's like, no. Watch this part. This is the Correct. Good part.
This is actually the good part. So, and he makes a joke about, well, why don't you just bring a ray gun back with you? And that's where we get the explanation that, it has to be wrapped in organic tissue. So couldn't you just take the ray gun and shove it up your keister?
I guess you could. Yes.
Right.
But then would your hair and nails not come back?
Well, no, I think they're organic. This is what we get into when you get into the T-1000. So is this it's like an actual living, breathing organism. It's not just a robot. Because he comes through fine.
I suppose so, yes.
I don't know. We're overthinking this whole thing. So, but you're right. This criminal psychologist, Earl Bowen, who actually does show up as this character in the sequel.
Because probably he made himself famous from this whole case.
Yeah, well, Sarah shows him a thing or two.
Yeah, she does. Yeah, she does.
Yeah.
But yeah, Arnold makes short work of everybody. And unfortunately, that guy leaves. Well, lucky for him, the actor, because he got to come back in the sequel. But he leaves for the night, so he does not see the carnage that Arnold unleashes
I would have quit my
the
job
police station.
if I come back in the next day and they'd be like, yeah, your entire department was destroyed by this guy that you were making fun of, telling him he wasn't real.
And do I get a package for that? Do I get like a...
Yeah, no, I'm going to stay a psychologist for another. I'll go work for the crazy bin and make fun of her over there.
Yeah, I won't stop making fun of her.
Yeah.
But this is where we get the confessional after Reese gets her out of the police station, that he came across time for Sarah and that he loves her. And then he squeezes some boobs for about 2 minutes straight.
Yeah, later in the movie, she gets some shrapnel on her leg. And I was like, oh, it looks like Reese's penis was not the only thing that the future penetrated. Yeah, no, we got some. Did she do her own booby squeezing stunts there?
I assume so. Yeah, because it's you see her face as well in the shot. So
yeah, we got this rampaging psycho that's coming to kill you. But yeah, listen, let's make some nitroglycerin bombs. It's making me a little horny. All right, let's go.
But yep,
yes,
car chase or two later, we get that iconic scene we were talking about before, where Reese slides the pipe bomb just like Eddie Murphy does with bananas.
So slowly. I saw that movie
in the truck, and I love the bonus features about this explosion because they wanted it to explode in sections, and it looks so cool when it explodes on screen because it starts blowing up, realistically from where the pipe bomb is in the back of the truck. Sure. It blows up in the back first, and then it slowly blows up all the way up to the cab.
Yeah.
And that's where you see Sarah's, the rear projection shot of her just going around a corner before she gets taken out by the flames.
The way this is shot, it looks like it's right on top of her.
Yeah.
But like I said, Reese throws this thing in there and then immediately jumps into the dumpster. And meanwhile, she's like 5 feet away from the cab.
Yeah.
It's like that's not going to end well, but she only gets a couple shrapnels. Truck blows up. That's it. He's done. He's dead. Movie over.
Nope.
You're shaking your head. No.
Nope. If you believe that, then you do not go to the movies because
I left.
I
thought the movie was over.
Oh no.
I'm not sitting through the end credits. I thought the movie was over. Yeah, you did it.
Nope. Now we get some classic stop motion animation.
This is it. This is Cameron's vision from his fevered dream.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
The endoskeleton comes up. Yep.
She is still rocking those mom pants though. So nice to see those back in style. Not.
And thankfully, they just happen to be right next to this factory that has this compression crusher available for.
Well, this
Sarah.
This is also the convenience of the second movie as well. That
where they just happen to end up in like a molten
smelting plant. Yes.
Yeah, in a smelting plant. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but this is where, up until this point, you've seen Sarah kind of be the victim, and she's like, why is this happening to me? And now she thinks it's over. This thing starts rising up. He's nothing. All of his flesh is gone. He's nothing but robot. He's exoskeleton. And again, this is so iconic. And you're right. It's all stop motion. And now she has to go in soldier mode. And she's yelling at Reese because he's down. Get up, soldier. Let's go.
Yep.
And again, this is one of the worst rear projection scenes where they're just running through the door as this thing is making his way. And it's clearly just a screen behind the door.
But what's really cool is when they switch from the stop motion to the close-ups of its head, which is practical.
Yeah.
And it looks so great.
Oh,
really.
It's so iconic. And it I mean, you see the hydraulics, you see everything moving.
Yeah.
Everything that you saw coming through his facial as his skin starts to deteriorate is there. And
but you can't help but think, stop motion. To me, this is a callback to those Sinbad movies with the skeletons, and the Ray Harryhausen stuff.
Well, I mean, the technology is just not there, but there's a certain level of charm to it that is lost when you get to Judgment Day, because it's now all CG. It's a completely different ball game. Like, this was revolutionary, the way he did it and the way he shot it. And then 7 years later, he just blew everything up and made exponential leaps in technology, not just Cameron, but ILM with the computer stuff, now, 2 years prior to Jurassic Park.
At this point, Reese sticks one of his garbage pipe bombs in the Terminator and blows it up. It shouldn't be that easy to blow up the Terminator with this like handmade pipe bomb that you've done, because he even says that he doesn't really have the weapons to stop it yet.
But I guess this bomb's enough to sever its
torso in half. Yeah,
but it just never gives up.
But it takes out Reese at the same time. So unfortunately, Reese is down. Now Sarah's by herself.
Oh, that's where she gives the little get up soldier speech. Yeah. But you're right. All of a sudden now they're in this computer warehouse that has a bunch of buttons. She doesn't know what they do, but she presses them. She presses them
anyway, does the thing. She's got it, as you said before, she has to pull some metal out of her leg. So now she's crawling just as the Terminator is crawling after her.
Yeah. No, don't get me wrong. The action is just ramping up.
Yeah.
I mean, the car chases are spectacular, but now this thing is like, you think it's done. You think that's it. We blew it up. No, it's still coming.
Yeah.
He told you right there. It will not give up ever.
And so she crawls through this hydraulic press until he follows her in, gets out the other side. You're terminated, and bam. Yeah.
It's so iconic. It is so cathartic.
Yeah.
Right down to when his head gets crushed and a little ring around his eyeball pops off, and then the little red eyeball just goes out.
Yep. And the arm is still holding on to her.
So this is a nice, again, watching these movies back to back, you're like, there it is. It is the right hand.
So now we get the cops wheel her away. We don't see what their discussion is or anything like that, but now we get 6 months later.
So let me ask you this, though. How do they ID Reese's body?
Yeah, that's the big question.
He would have no records.
No.
They wouldn't know who he is. He's from the future.
But they won't believe it anyway, especially that psychologist.
Well, somebody had to clean up that mess.
Yeah. How did that guy kill 50 cops? I don't know.
Yeah.
He's not a robot,
PCP.
though. That's for sure.
PCP, man. Yeah. He was all hopped up.
Yeah.
Okay. He's going to feel it in the morning, man.
So maybe because Sarah is apparently in Mexico at the end.
Yeah, it looks like she's in. I don't think they tell you per se, but it's.
So maybe she's on the run already from the law. Who knows?
Her roommate and boyfriend were killed. There's 2 other Sarah Connors that were killed. This guy, they find her in the warehouse with another guy dead. It's like, we're going to have to question you.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, she's on the run. She's got a little tape recorder. She's going full on reporter
So we're not
mode.
told in this movie about quote unquote Judgment Day. That term doesn't come up until movie 2. We're not told when the date is of Judgment Day, which we're told in movie 2. So you just assume like it's going to happen next week at the end of Terminator. Not quite the case.
There's no mention of the actual date.
I don't think so.
Skynet goes live. I think you're right. I think that is in the second movie.
Yeah.
Sometime in the future. I think it's vague.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But this was released, as you said, October 26th of 1984, made on a relative shoestring budget of $6.4 million, made a massive $78 million at the worldwide box office. It is. And it just got, as Arnold says in these bonus features, it just got bigger as time went on, as it hit video and TV.
Well, that's again, right. Because it was such a limited release in the theaters. But it dropped like a year later on.
And just like you, VHS. You heard great word of mouth. Now you had to see it.
Yeah, but it was still a whole other year before it dropped on VHS, and I had to watch it. I couldn't. Just back in the day, just driving to Elmira to go watch a movie in the theater.
But once it hit like the HBO rounds and the home video rounds, I saw this over and over and over again. There's a huge charm to this. This is just one of those movies that is so inextricably tied to my adolescence. to my teenage years. It is so tied to the 80s for me that I cannot help but want to induct this, and I will, into the 5-bucket club.
So you don't feel the same about the second one. Interesting.
Yeah, not quite.
John Connor ruined it for you?
Well, no, it's just like that. I can't hold them exactly equally. There's nothing like that rush of seeing something like you've never seen before for Terminator. Yeah, T2 took it up a notch,
Right.
but my heart
have an emotional attachment to
yes.
it. Okay.
Yes.
All right. That's fair enough. I'm not going to argue with you. I too believe it's a solid 5 buckets. So we had mentioned Harlan Ellison, who had issues with the fact that this storyline hewed very closely to one of his episodes of The Outer Limit.
Really? In what way?
So I guess it was a time travel about a soldier going back in time to either change. I don't know the full storyline, but it was enough that they, him and his people, made a lawsuit over it. And James Cameron, the studio said, we got to make this just go away. So they ended up just settling out of court for like $65,000. And that's why at the end of this movie, you actually get acknowledgments to Harlan Ellison and all. I don't know if you saw that on your Blu-ray, but all future, not in the original theatrical release, but in the subsequent cuts of this film, that is added.
Yeah,
that they give him acknowledgments. And there are interviews with Cameron, who has gone on record that as a kid, he was very influenced by a lot of this Outer Limit stuff and Twilight Zone and these episodes. And he even said, yeah, maybe I pulled from some of this stuff that influenced me as a kid. Just like, George Lucas watching these, cliffhanger serials in Republic, hanging out in a movie theater in between, just like Jaws, like the glut of these robots from the future movies, these ripoff movies that just showed up out of nowhere, direct to VHS.
Yeah, mostly starring Dolph Lundgren, I think.
And Mario Van Peebles.
Yeah.
So your second and third rate. Dolph Lundgren. What was that? I Come in Peace?
I Come in Peace. The guy that shot the CDs out of his gun.
That's right. That's right. Some of these I've never even heard of. There was a cyborg cop. Solo, as I mentioned, was Mario Van Peebles. Lady Terminator. There
was a movie called Cyborg with Jean-Claude Van Damme, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, you're right. This was a cheaper cyborg cop. Rotor, Rotor.
Is that a dog?
No, this was like it looked like a Terminator / Mad Max ripoff. It was a robotic officer, tactical operations research. So you come up with the anagram first and then have to figure out the words.
Mm.
Yeah. The Vindicator, as you said, I Come in Peace, Shocking Dark. Like all these studios were like, dude, we gotta jump on this.
Yeah. And why not? That's just the name of the game. It happened with Star Wars. It happened with Jaws, as you said.
Yeah. It just gets better with time.
It does.
It really does. And like I said, watching this on the Blu-ray, I was blown away at how well it looked. I have not seen this movie in quite some time. And like I said, first time I probably ever watched it was on VHS.
Yeah. And again, I can't say enough that it just makes me nostalgic for a time when I could be surprised by a movie, which doesn't happen much these days.
Yeah.
Critics were kind of mixed about this. Like the big name places praised it. Variety loved it. Time magazine put it in its 10 best movies of 1984. Los Angeles Times said it's a cracking thriller full of all sorts of gory treats, which is true. Most chilling science fiction thriller since Alien, said the Milwaukee Journal, our friends in Milwaukee.
Ooh.
Isn't Laverne and Shirley in Milwaukee?
Yes, they were.
Yeah, they were. Who didn't like it? Janet Maslin.
Maslin.
Well, she gave it backhanded praise. I should rephrase that. It's a B movie with flair. Much of it has suspense and personality, and only the obligatory mayhem becomes dull. There's too much of that in the form of car chases, shootouts, and Schwarzenegger slamming brutally into anything that gets in his way. But that sounds good to me. Doesn't sound bad.
Yeah. I want to see that movie.
Yeah.
It's not for me. Okay. Then don't review it.
Yeah, don't review. If you know it's not for you going into it, then
Yeah, I hate rom-coms, so let's talk about those.
cinema
Yeah,
audiences,
yeah.
cinema score gave it a B plus. That surprises me that it got as low as a B plus.
E plus. I
Yeah,
saw that it was only sitting at like 8.2 on IMDb out of 10.
seems wrong.
It does.
So, what is T2
It's
sitting at on IMDb? Do you know?
8.6.
8.6.
It does have a higher. It does have a higher audience rating than. Yeah.
So, are we inducting right now Terminator 1 and 2? Or are we going to do a
Yeah.
double induction
I
at the
think.
end?
I think.
Let's give
I
them
think
both their
you.
due. Let's give them both their
Okay.
due.
Fair enough.
I would like to induct the
Oh.
Terminator into our 5 bucket club.
And you know what the Arnold says to that? I'll be bugged.
Yes, he will. But after we go to the concession stand.
Oh, let's go.
What do you got?
So, in the second movie, we find out that Terminators have a lifespan of 120 years, give or take,
Give or take.
depending on their batteries. And so I wanted to find a candy that was long-lasting, not necessarily shelf life Twinkies level, but more like a candy that can go the distance in my mouth. And I was surprised to learn that we have never discussed Jolly Ranchers.
This is true.
So, Jolly Ranchers.
Are you a fan of Jolly Ranchers?
I am, and we're going to find out what my favorite flavor is in a minute. So let's go. We got to go all the way back to 1949, where we're going to meet Bill and Dorothy Harmson, who have just moved from Minnesota to Colorado with a dream of entrepreneurship. Bill had just retired as a pilot from Continental Airlines, and they bought an old farm in Wheat Ridge, Colorado, and quickly set up shop. Bill started making doll beds and cocktail trays out of a makeshift work studio in a barn. Dorothy started growing gladiolas, peonies.
Wait, he was making doll beds out of cocktail trays or making doll beds and cocktail trays?
That would be interesting, yeah. No, cocktail trays and doll beds. It's like I'm catering to the kids and the moms.
I guess so, yeah.
I guess.
He's covering all bases there.
I guess. It does seem like an odd choice.
Yeah.
Doll beds. What am I going to make?
Well, he's got.
Doll beds?
It sounds like you can make both with the same basic tray. So,
yeah. How big's a doll bed?
okay, I've got all these trays. What can I make from them? Doll beds and cocktail
Mommy,
trays.
I took your cocktail tray and I turned it into a doll bed. But Dorothy started growing flowers, raspberries, strawberries, and selling them to the local shop. But that same year, they decided to open up the Jolly Rancher ice cream store in scenic Golden, Colorado. And they chose the name Jolly Rancher because Rancher gave the store a Western aura and Jolly suggested a friendly atmosphere. But there is some speculation. One of their favorite Minneapolis restaurants was actually called the Jolly Miller.
As opposed to the Angry Rancher ice cream store.
I guess so. Yeah, the Jolly Miller. So the Jolly Miller was a hotel that they frequented. And why are you hanging out in a hotel? I don't know. But anyways. So yeah, the Jolly Rancher. 1949. Unfortunately, they quickly realized that ice cream was a little hard to sell in the winter months of Colorado. Nobody wanted ice cream in Colorado in the middle of the winter. So they had to pivot and they started bringing in chocolates and smaller candies from a local confectionery. Unfortunately, their vendor, I guess, was a really poor source. And so they had to they brought in their own confectionery just to stay afloat. And they started making these candies on site. And they specialize in these, this confectioner that they brought in. I couldn't find a name. This guy does not get credit. They do. But he was a candy creator who specialized in unique type of translucent cinnamon taffy. And he utilized the high quality of local Colorado sugar beets. So this pivot was an immediate success. They had this 5-cent hot cinnamon taffy stick known as the Fire Sticks, STIX, that kids just went nuts for. And they had a hard taffy watermelon and a green apple. And these things were immediately flying off the shelves. So, seeing a good thing, they went all in on this candy venture. I guess they just abandoned the ice cream altogether. That over the next couple of years, because of the success of this Fire Sticks, they opened several franchise stores in Colorado, Wyoming, and Nebraska, and concentrated solely on this hard candy line. So we are seeing the birth of the Jolly Rancher as we know it today.
As we know it.
Yeah. So demand was so great that eventually they pulled out the old horse stalls in their big barn, and within several months set up a full-scale candy manufacturing operation in their barn. Before long, the family was producing 1 million pounds of candy weekly. So you're like, that's a lot of candy.
That's a lot of candy.
Yeah, unfortunately, there was a downside. They had a complete lack of storage. So where do you keep all this candy? You can't keep it in your storage. You got to just keep stocking shelves. But they're making this, and I mean, 1 million pounds a week adds up.
So are they still only selling it through their location, or
Yes,
now
correct.
they? Okay.
No, they're not. Yep, they're selling it through their franchises, a handful of stores in the areas. So according to one of their children, their son Bill, this candy was everywhere. They were storing it in their house in boxes. And he proclaimed, so there's an article with him in the Denver Post that proclaims he suffered from sensory overload as their house acted as one big warehouse, including his bedroom. I woke up every morning surrounded by boxes and boxes of brightly colored wrappers. The sugary sweet smell alone was enough to make me hate candy forever.
That sounds like a Cameron fever dream.
This is like the anti-Willy Wonka. He's like, I enough of this. So their reputation just exploded. They were known as these candy moguls. And every Halloween they would have these giveaways, these trick or treats. People would line up for miles to come to their farm to get candy as trick or treaters. And now that they got this whole factory set up on the property, they rechristened it the Sugar Bar Ranch. And it got to the point where even the governor of Colorado was handing out Jolly Rancher candies to visiting dignitaries. So these are like the official candies of Colorado that the governor was like, here, it's like you go to Canada and they give you a thing of maple syrup the minute you walk over the border.
Here's our state candy.
Yep.
Jolly Rancher.
Yeah, I wonder. I didn't look that up. I wonder if it isn't. It probably isn't now because unfortunately we'll find out it is no longer made.
So the governor could get a word in because as soon as you get this in your mouth, it gets stuck in your teeth and you cannot talk.
So let's talk about this because, right, what exactly is a Jolly Rancher? I mean, I think anybody who's ever had one knows, but you're right. The Wikipedia definition is a sweet hard candy, mostly defined by fruity flavors made of amorphous solids and formed from highly concentrated sugar solutions, giving them a crystallized, glassy appearance. But yes, if anyone's ever eaten one of these little brick-shaped blocks, they almost have a glass-like appearance, but they will quickly stick to the inside of your teeth.
Yes, I can't handle Jolly Ranchers. It's because somebody that grew up with braces and lots of dental work. No.
This has got to be a dentist's nightmare and dream all in one.
Yeah, and does it even digest in your system?
Well, did you bite on them or did you just suck them until there was nothing left?
You sucked them until but at some point you can't help but bite on it.
Yeah, correct. So I don't know, maybe I'm the only one, but you could actually just suck on one side of it and you could get it down to this fine point, almost like a little toothpick sliver that would just poke the inside of my gums. It was like this pleasure pain
you could
thing.
clean your teeth with it.
Why am I doing this to myself?
But also, when you say you've got it in your mouth for a long time and you have it in the same spot,
yep.
It causes that, the same feeling inside your cheek as when you get pruny fingers from being in a in water for too long.
Start getting a little waterlogged.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the other thing I remember, like if you kept these in your pocket or like in your mom's purse for too long, they would start to stick to the plastic.
Yeah, you couldn't get it out of the wrapper.
And it was always like that task of, am I going to get a piece of plastic in my mouth because I didn't get a full one? Because there's like that little tacky outside.
So this also brings up an interesting point about Terminator. How did Skynet know that when they send these guys to the past that they're not going to zap into like a building or a rock?
Well, yeah, I pointed out the fact that Reese was like 6 feet off the ground, so he didn't have a clear landing. But yeah, they could have easily just. In the second one, the energy bubble does take out part of the garbage truck. So
this is true. That was cool. That was cool. But I didn't mean to hijack your.
No,
your
that's
Jolly
fine.
Ranchers.
Listen, that's all one thought right here.
Yeah.
So these things should have come with a warning label. But the original flavors were watermelon, apple, and this fire sticks, which they go on. So everything I'm reading, that these fire sticks were like this was it. Like everyone loved this stuff. What happened to them? I have no idea. Why did they stop making these things if they were so?
Yeah, or at least like have a cinnamon flavor Jolly Rancher.
We will get into it a little bit later in the back end. They came out with a Hotties mix, but that's since been discontinued. But the cinnamon fire sticks is not part of it. So anyways, over the years, they introduced cherry, orange, tangerine, lemon, grape, peach, and my absolute favorite, sour apple.
Sour apple.
I did find out blue raspberry eventually replaced lemon. So lemon is no more. So let's go through the timeline, because in 1966, this couple said, you know what, we're sitting on a gold mine here. And they merged. Beatrice Foods Company of Chicago bought them out, but Bill stayed on as head of the brand until he retired in '77. So he stayed on for like another 11 years or so. At the time of the merger, the plant was operating 2 shifts with about 250 employees, producing upwards of 125,000 pounds of candy per day. No wonder why their son is like traumatized by this. Do you think this kid's like, he hears Jolly Rancher and he just curls up in a corner somewhere? No.
I could see him just his room about 5 feet deep of Jolly Ranchers, and just a head and hands sticking out of it.
So in 1983, Leaf Brands purchases Beatrice Foods, which was then subsequently bought by Hershey Company in 1996. And the interesting side note to that was that acquisition also included Whoppers, Payday, Milk Duds, Good and Plenty, and Heath Bars.
Yeah. So when you go to Hershey Park and you go through that famous chocolate tour, Jolly Ranchers is that logo is just one of the many things that you can get on all the merch that's available there in Hershey Park.
Well, it's interesting to how many times we talk about these little small mom and pop shops that make these candies, and then these giant conglomerates just come and eat them up.
Yeah, and also if you go into a Party City, well, you're not going to anymore but when you go to the candy aisle and it was just like the candy that you could scoop into a bag, there was always
the Jolly
Ranchers
sure.
there.
Yeah, because they're sold in little individual. I think they're sold like in bags, right?
They are. You can get them in the store in a bag. But then they're individual in one of those, candy shops that you can scoop yourself.
Yeah, but they're not sold, right? They're not in like a package. It's just a bag. And usually it's a variety. Yeah. So, unfortunately, the Colorado production plant closed for good in 2002, and they moved operations to Mexico. This was after Hershey had acquired them.
Okay.
And then in 2014, the candies were moved again, and they're now manufactured exclusively in Canada.
Oh.
So if you're going to get a Jolly Rancher now, you're probably paying a tariff.
Right.
Yeah. So some fun facts. Bob Cormack, who is a former Walt Disney artist, designed most of the Jolly Ranchers packaging throughout the 50s and 60s. So he did all the fun little cartoon graphics of the kids eating their Jolly Ranchers.
Yes.
Recommended serving size is 3 pieces at 70 calories. So each one of these candies is only 23 calories. That's actually not bad, all things considered. In 2004, there was a line of Jolly Rancher sodas that was introduced, but that has now since been discontinued. And as I mentioned, there was a release of a Unique's Hotties Mix, which is also now discontinued, but included flavors such as watermelon cayenne, blue raspberry sriracha, cherry habanero, and green apple ginger.
Wow.
Which sounds like Bertie Bott's jelly beans.
It does.
Crazy level of it's too bad that I didn't know about those. The big thing right now too, you can walk into a bar and request a Jolly Rancher shot.
Really?
This is the thing.
It's just straight corn syrup?
No, people have been putting, so you can take a Jolly Rancher, whatever your preferred flavor is, drop it into your glass of vodka, and it will take on that flavor. So you can create cocktails, liqueurs, vodka, cranberry juice. It's a big culinary treat in the bar scene. And the only thing I found out was over the years, the Harmsons clearly had amassed a great fortune creating these candies. And so they invested in Western art and donated it in 2001, over 3,000 pieces to the Denver Art Museum, and it is considered to be one of the most expensive and culturally valuable collections of its kind.
All paid for by Jolly Ranchers.
All paid for by Jolly Ranchers. I bet you that son Bill's like, yeah, okay, I'll take those subsidiary checks.
Yeah.
Wait, Mom, you donated all that stuff? I don't get any of it?
You know what's irritating, though, is when somebody's sucking on a Jolly Rancher and they open their mouth and you can hear it clicking in their teeth.
Yes. Oh, yeah, that is a thing.
Yeah.
So there you go, Jolly Ranchers. They may not last you 120 years, but they do have long life in the mouth.
Not angry ranchers, but Jolly Ranchers.
No, not even jovial, just jolly.
Happy ranchers.
Happy ranchers. So there you go.
All right.
Now we're back in the theater?
Now we're back in the theater.
We jumped 7 years ahead?
We jumped in time 7 years ahead to 1991.
What? So 91 was a real crappy year for yours truly over here.
Really?
91 was not a good year for me. But all things considered, I did see this in the theater.
Right. Well, you needed it
by myself. Right? I had to walk probably 5 miles from where I lived to the theater.
I had to walk 5 miles, but it wasn't snowing because it was July.
Each way.
Yep.
July 4th weekend or whenever it dropped. Yeah. It was a 1-screen theater, maybe 2 screens in Brewster, New York.
I saw this at a small theater in New Paltz, New York.
There you go.
Yeah. Kind of theater where you can hear the bleed coming through, the sound bleed from the next theater over. But there's no danger of that happening here. If anything, it was the other way around.
This thing walked away with 4 Academy Awards, and one of them was for sound production. So it was pretty loud. This Blu-ray had 3 different versions of this movie, and I chose to watch the extended theatrical special edition. So I'm like, whoa. And there was a 3D message in there, and I'm like, is this going to play in 3D? But it did not.
See, mine only had 2 versions, the theatrical cut, the original, and the extended version, and I chose the theatrical cut.
Yeah, okay. So we're going to have slightly different viewings because there are some scenes that you probably watched as deleted cut scenes that are in here.
Not even. I didn't get a chance to really deeply go into the cut scenes.
Okay. So the making of this movie is fascinating in the sense that, like we said, it's, the first movie was just gangbusters. It exploded out of the gate. And so, sure, it's studio. Let's make another one. James Cameron. Well, I don't know. It's, but as we mentioned the legalities were a little confusing because his ex-wife by now owned, I think, 3/4 of the rights, sitting on that dollar. That was a dollar well spent, by the way. I wonder if he had any fever dreams about that deal.
I'm sure he did. And he says, he regrets doing that, but did he really have a choice at the time?
No, well, that's just it. Again, hindsight's always 20/20, but he did what he had to do in order to get his movie made.
Now, is that before they were married that he sold it to her?
Yes, I believe. Yeah, I don't think they didn't get married until later, because they worked together on numerous movies. As I mentioned, The Abyss. Do you ever pick up on the fact that all of his movies either start with an A or a T?
No.
Terminator.
Avatar.
Alien.
Titanic. Wow.
Abyss.
And he was attached to Spider-Man, so that would have been Amazing Spider-Man.
Amazing Spider-Man. Wait, what movie you want me to do? Avengers? Yeah. Okay, I'm in.
Yeah.
Wait. Back to the Future? No, I can't do that.
Yeah, I can't do it.
I can't do it. I can't do it. I got a theme going here.
Talking about a theme going, opens in that year 2029.
Yep. So we go right back to the well on that one.
Yeah. Terminator's on the ground this time in the battle. Yeah. It's not just the vehicles.
No, and they are fully realized. These are animatronic, fully life-size exoskeletons.
And you're getting a narration by Sarah Connor herself.
So she tells you right up front, they sent a second Terminator back.
Yeah.
We effed it up. So now they're going to send another one. But this time they're taking out my son. They're going to wait for him to be a whiny 10-year-old.
Yep. Okay, maybe it'll be easier to take out a kid rather than Sarah herself.
Well, why don't you just wait until she's pregnant?
Yeah, true.
She's not going to get around as much.
Yep, have whatever the robot come right out in that Mexican gas station at the end of...
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he could just show up 10 minutes after the other one was blown up.
Yeah, because meanwhile, do they wait 7 years in the future? Like, okay, nothing's happening.
I want to question that too, because you're only talking like a 10, 11 year gap. And yet the level of technology between the T-800 and the T-1000 or the 101 or whatever he was, like, it's leaps and bounds. Was that in a 10-year window, or did they send him back 50 years after? They're like, well, let's wait until we get a better robot and then we'll send him back.
And then apparently Skynet had to build another time machine because Reese said that they destroyed the one.
Right. They were on the verge of trashing the entire system.
Yeah.
So, boy, they were waiting until the last minute. Can we send this guy back now? Well, not yet. Let these humans get a foothold.
But this movie just keeps going back to this one nightmarish scene of the playground on fire. So the opening titles is over the playground on fire, which you see as Sarah's dream a little bit later.
So this is interesting because, you don't really meet her in the movie until about half an hour in. But you do get this narration, and it's a pickup from her talking into the recorder, leaving John messages explaining, this is what happened, this is what you need to do, this is where I'm gonna, all these things. We find out later she's got a safe house or whatever. But this is the nightmare that Kyle left with her, is this realization that all of this is going to be gone. 1997, we're told straight up, Skynet becomes aware, 2:14 a.m., August 29th, 1997, Judgment Day. Within hours, they decide that humanity is a threat. And it's interesting because we're now at that age, we're living right now where people are actively feeding into this AI.
Yeah.
And it's me more the the idea that this is Skynet. This thing just, you got AI robots talking to each other.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And yet somehow people think this is a good thing. No, we can control it. No, you can't. Have you not watched any of these movies?
It'll let me write a letter.
Right. I can't even compose an email anymore without them asking, do you want AI to take over and write you a better one? No, I'm good. I took English class. I know the difference between 2 and 2. So yes, so you're right. This playground, this idea, she's sitting there, people are swinging, they're having fun, and she's just like like, what is she trying to? She's just screaming at them. Yeah.
But you don't even get that in the very beginning. You just see the playground on
just get the
fire
playground on fire.
over the titles.
It's an inferno.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, we're stepping up our game here.
And then out of that fire comes dun 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 dun.
Yep.
Dun 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 dun.
Opening.
Yeah.
Graphics of the Terminator.
Close up of the Terminator. Yeah.
T2.
So we get shades of the first one. Naked Arnold gets zapped down. But again, as you said, he's like right next to a truck, and that gets like the corner of the truck is gone, you know, and you see like a smoking red hole, like a little indentation where Arnold is actually has landed. And he's naked again, walks into a honky-tonk bar, goes up to Biker Santa, breaks his hand.
Beats the crap out of these guys. Not before that guy puts a cigarette out on his chest.
I know. I'm like, oh, you've already damaged him, and it's only 5 minutes into this movie.
Yeah. So did you read this biker bar was right across the street from where Rodney King was beat? And apparently they were filming the night that happened. In the audio commentary, director James Cameron said that not only was the biker bar scene filmed across the street from where LAPD officers beat up Rodney King, but they were filming the night of the beating. And that's where he got his idea for Strange Days, which he wrote.
That's who filmed that footage was James Cameron of the Rodney King?
Yes, he actually went out and filmed it. Yes. He's like, hold on, what's going on over there?
Yeah.
They did talk about. Did you see any of this behind the scene footage? You don't?
No, I did not.
So Arnold's not naked during this scene. He's wearing like surfer board pants, and it's really kind of funny because they're like these brightly colored. You know, they should be hanging out on the beach. Like he's wearing shorts, having this big scene where he's beating these people up.
So he's got no pendulum going on.
No, in this one he is clothed. Well, at least off camera he's clothed. So,
and then we see the second Terminator come down under the bridge downtown.
And the nice thing is, which is in the first movie, Arnold comes through, and then you get Reese. So you get bad guy, good guy. So Arnold comes in first, and then you get Robert Patrick, and you're like, all right, it's bad guy, good guy again. And then this guy immediately kills a cop that no one ever talks about again.
Right. Nobody misses him. So
nobody misses him. Nobody misses the fact that
but didn't they send Arnold back to protect because the T-1000 came back? So that doesn't make sense. The T-1000 should have come back first. Right.
Or like in Back to the Future, it's like, wait a minute, Doc got shot. I'll just set the time 5 minutes ahead and I'll be in front of him.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Well, if that's the case, then be where the guy's going to enter and just take him out as soon as he lands. So yeah, and you know, so they're subverting all these tropes and expectations that they set up in the first movie. That he's a cop, so he must be the good guy. No, not at all. I will say, I have newfound respect for Robert Patrick after watching a lot of this behind the scenes stuff, because this is all him. This is every movement that he makes as this character was his decision. Like even to the part, like when you see the liquid at the end and he's reforming, like ILM's got him in there going, well, how would you, if you were coming off the ground, how would you stand up? And he's like, I'm like a flower. I'm growing like a flower. So the movements, all the facial, the fact that he's using his hands to touch things to like scanners, like a lot of this stuff, it was just fascinating. I was like, wow, look at this. This guy's, yeah. I thought it was pretty cool. So yeah, so right again, we got two Terminators. So we got two people at least. We don't know what the hell's going on. Back in 1991 now, and we were introduced to John, who is now hanging out with. He's got foster parents, who, as his buddy says, your foster parents are kind of and we realized pretty quickly these are pieces of crap. These humans.
One of them is Vasquez from Alien.
Yes, yeah,
the mom.
Janelle. Todd and Janelle.
And Todd is the jerk boyfriend from Candyman.
Oh, you are. Wow. Yeah, I didn't even pick up on that.
Yeah.
So he's 10 years old, and yet he's racing around town on a motorbike. He's stealing credit cards. This kid's a problem.
He is a problem. He's whiny. Worst of all, he's whiny.
He's not Anakin level whiny.
No.
But So again, listening to them talk about this audition tape, this kid had never acted before, ever. And he says he couldn't hit his marks. He couldn't, they were trying to coach him numerous times. He says, but something about this kid, because he was emaciated, he was undernourished, attracted me. That's how he got the job. Kid.
I wanted to feed him.
Right. But we do see that his birth date was February 28th, 1985. So I'm like, so wouldn't this be 95? So even though this movie came out in 91, this is taking place in like 95, 96, if he's 10 years old.
Yeah, it is taking place in the
future.
In the future from 91. Yeah,
hello,
so it's
future
not,
boy.
Yep.
Yeah.
So then we see Sarah's in a mental hospital. That's her doctor now, the guy from the first movie.
And this is genius because he lays out the entire first movie in like 5 sentences.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, this is a fascinating case. She had these stories about a man who came back from the future who also happened to look human. And, yeah, it's like, all right, there you go. I'm caught up. I don't need to watch the first movie.
Mm-hmm. So in the meantime, we've got Robert Patrick and Arnold looking for John Connor. And apparently both of them go to the house, to the foster parents. Robert Patrick shows up. Yeah, John Connor here because he's dressed as a police officer, right? So they think something's wrong. Oh, yeah, there was some other guy looking for him, too. They don't care.
I don't mind it. Yeah. No, don't. Right, correct. They're just used to, what do you do now kind of a thing.
Do you have a picture of John? Yep, right here. Can I keep this? Sure.
He's a good-looking boy.
Yeah.
So in the first movie, the Terminator has to systematically go through the phone book to try and find the correct Sarah Connor. Robert Patrick, the T-1000, goes into the cop car, turns on a computer, punches in the name, and one name comes up with an address. He's the only John Connor in L.A.?
Well, maybe the only John Connor that's that age.
Did he punch in his age? Is that where we see his birth date?
It could be, yes.
I don't remember where we saw it now, but...
You also are introduced to John's friend.
Can we just call this kid out for a minute? Because John's never going to see this kid again. This kid's never going to see John again. We never see him again after this scene where he doesn't rat out John. So this is a meme. This is an online meme of this kid saving the universe because he does not trust the cops. He is not willing to admit that he knows that kid in the picture. And I'm like, wow.
So, and then this
That's a
kid
solid friend right there.
In this movie, literally, he must be a redheaded stepchild.
He must be. They probably met in the foster care system together.
Yeah.
So on your viewing, because I can't remember now the director's cuts versus the extended, when you're introduced to Sarah in the mental hospital and she's doing the pull-ups or whatever, is there a scene where she interacts with Kyle in her head?
No.
Okay. So there's a sequence here that's in her head where he repeats this story. Remember what I told you. Remember the message. The future is not set. I'm like, that wasn't in the first movie at all. But she hugs him and I miss him. What are you doing here? She chases him down the hallway and then he disappears. And then she realizes she's back out in the playground. And then she wakes up and realizes it's all in her head. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so there is this sequence where Kyle comes back, and it is Michael Biehn.
He got cut out of the movie then, the theatrical cut.
Well, I read that at one point they were actually toying with the idea of having him come back as the Terminator.
Oh,
they were going to completely flip roles.
You know what would have been great is if they just sent another T-101. Okay.
Yes,
to Arnold.
So there's points in this movie where I'm like, why is this T-1000 turning back into this police officer? At this point, they know who he is. Show up as Arnold.
Yeah.
You've interacted with him. You've touched him. Why not just show up as a dog? Well, I mean, we're told you can't, mimic mechanical things, so you can't just show up as a vending machine.
Yeah, a lot of the charm of this is the special effects of the T-1000 and the liquid metal aspect of them. But how cool would it have been if it would have been Arnold versus Arnold?
Yeah. Which I think we did get a little bit in that Dark Fate, because he was a younger, the old Arnold with the younger CG 1984 looking Terminator.
But we get our first big action sequence here in the LA River, which is kind of like a series of drainage systems.
Aqueducts. Yeah, they're aqueducts, which is actually pretty smart.
And we've seen this in so many movies, and it is really unique.
Grease Lightning raced.
Yep. The ants were stuck in the aqueducts.
Sure. Yeah.
Blue Thunder, there was like a big chase with the 2 helicopters down the aqueducts.
Ooh, gotcha.
So this is iconic, this location. So this is where we get the John on the bike with Arnold. And again, they're trying to, as if, audiences weren't savvy to this. Maybe there were some that weren't savvy to this. Like, who's the good guy? Who's the bad guy of the 2 Terminators? Because you're not sure. They don't tell you until Arnold says, I'm here to save you. Come with me if you want to live. And then there's the big chase with the bike and the truck.
Did they attack in the mall first?
There was the mall scene where it's like King Kong versus Godzilla in the back hallway.
So again, this is a callback to Tech Noir. This is both of them are closing in on John. You don't know who's who. You assume that Arnold is the bad Terminator, and he's carrying a box of roses. Did he pay for those roses?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. John's in the arcade playing Missile Command. I'm like, I guess that's training for his future generalhood.
Yeah.
But yeah, they have a big melee that the 2 of them just start shooting each other, and that's when he says, come with me if you want to live, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And John wants none of it. Again, the behind the scenes footage, they were talking about the fact that the first time, so John gets on his bike, and as he's racing away, Robert Patrick comes running out of the parking lot and he's chasing him. He actually caught him the first time. They said this guy was so super fast. They're like, you got to speed it up. Yeah, he caught the bike the first time. Movie's over. That's it. We're done. And this truck just keeps coming. I mean, clearly when it lands, the whole axle looks like it snaps, and yet he just keeps driving it. Cut the editing. It's well done.
And we also get a scene after this initial chase that John wants to check in. He's got a heart, this kid. So he wants to check in on his foster parents, regardless of how mean they are to him. The T-1000's beating him to it. He's already masquerading as the mom and impales dad. Well,
did you notice that in the first movie, Ginger also dies drinking milk? I'm like, what does James Cameron have against dairy products? This guy's drinking milk.
Maybe he's intolerant.
If I can't drink it, no one can.
No one can.
No one can.
That may go a long way to explain Mr. Cameron's attitude.
But so once again, payphone number 1. We can't have these movies without payphones.
Yeah, no. And soon after this, you get the first shotgun through the head for the T-1000, which is great visual. It just blows the head like something from Last of Us, right? Like this mushroom head appears.
Yeah, and that's practical.
But what was funny is there's one scene in one of these car chases where you see what's obviously a Robert Patrick dummy hanging on to the back of the police car.
There's a couple questionable scenes. But again, that's echoes Arnold in the first movie jumping on the car. So there's a lot, like you said, there's a lot of these callbacks. There's a lot of these motifs of stepping on stuff and crushing. And he's right back to shooting Arnold. Not so much Robert Patrick, but Arnold still gets that kind of upshot. So
we're basically going back through the basic plot of the first movie, where it's a chase. Arnold has replaced Reese. The good Terminator has replaced Reese. And now Robert Patrick has replaced Arnold from the first movie. But in the background, you also, and this is the fascinating part of this to me, you get the Cyberdyne as today. Now, do they exist because of this arm and the technology that came from the future? Is that why Cyberdyne exists at all? Because the arm came back from the future. The chip came back from the future, and they're basing their work on these things. Well, somebody had to clean that place up. At the end of the first movie, they find the arm, they find the CPU chip. So I would think that somebody stepped in and said, we need someone to check this out and find out what this is. So I'm assuming that they probably were some kind of an organization, some kind of a facility that was there. This guy was assigned to But it would never have been Skynet without that stuff. Correct. They found. Yeah, this is you're right back to the time loop. The bootstrap paradox, which is if they didn't send him back, they would have created Skynet to begin with to send it back. So where's the rest of it? Like they must have pulled that chip from the flat, the Terminator from the press,
Right.
I would have kept that other stuff too.
The arm, it's in someone's locker. But yeah, the arm, which was the only thing that was still intact, and then the little piece of the CPU. So I noticed for the first time in this movie, at the end of it, they're like, we got to get rid of all evidence. Your hand is still in that friggin' chopper down at the bottom where he cut his arm off.
Yeah.
You still left an arm behind.
I just had a vision of the flat Arnold, just like on a clothesline, like in Beetlejuice coming
Like in
through.
Beetlejuice. Flat Arnold.
Like going through the Cyberdyne, hallways. I'll be back. He delivers mail to the various offices.
But yeah, the authorities immediately know that the foster parents are dead, and they go run into Sarah. Okay.
Yeah, now you believe me?
Right. And yet not a word is mentioned at all about this police officer that was killed. He's running around with the guy's name tag. Nobody seems to be like, what unit are you from?
And he took his car.
The car we were looking for.
Yeah.
That's the car we were looking for. So, okay. Yeah.
So they bust Sarah out, which is not part of Arnold's plan. But they bust Sarah out because John finds out that Arnold will do whatever he tells him to do, because that's what he's programmed.
My own Terminator. Yeah. And he immediately misuses his toy.
Yeah. So now Sarah is part of the gang. They go to Enrique's compound, which is just a bunch of, metal garbage that this family lives in the middle of the desert.
But not before we get that famous iconic scene, that scene where he walks around the corner and she realizes it's the Terminator and like loses her mind. But when they're being chased by Robert Pattinson and the bars are closed and he goes right through the bars.
Yeah, great
which
scene.
Is, again, we have never seen anything like that.
No, and this is 2 years before Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Blew the doors off of computer animation.
Yeah, again, Dennis Muren. Yeah. And it was just like, I think the budget for the special effects on this was more than the original movie. I think they spent, the ILM was like $5.5 million for the special effects. And it equates like 7 minutes of screen time. You talk about unprecedented, you talk about, state of the art and.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Everything that's come. It's just everything you saw in that first movie, they've just ramped it up.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, Enrique, just one of these guys that she used to hang out with in the desert, and she was smart enough to keep like this cache of weapons. Yeah. Like, at what point was she going to tell John about this stuff?
I know. It's like you've got this really nice hideaway for the weapons, but where does your family sleep, Enrique?
Right. They were in the bus with no door. And
she stops every once in a while to narrate. I'm like, these just her thoughts that we're hearing, or, she speaking to us directly as the audience? But she falls asleep, and this is where we get the dream. And now this is the scene that has stayed with me. This is the one scene I think of when I think of T2, is this nightmarish scene where the playground in the city is blown up in Judgment Day.
And these people literally are being incinerated.
Yeah.
Even her like all of her flesh and skin, everything comes blowing off, and it's nothing but a skeleton.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
So now Sarah, from this point, she regroups at this compound. She gets some weapons. She says that she's got something to do, and she's leaving. She'll meet up with John and the robot the next day. And she's hanging on the words of Kyle from the first movie that the future isn't set, possible futures, whatever. So she wants to prevent Judgment Day. In order to do that, she's going to what she feels is the source. What is this character's name that works at
Miles Dyson.
Miles?
They realize that Miles Dyson is the engineer.
He's the inventor of Skynet.
Skynet.
Yeah.
And you see that he's a he's a workaholic, and that he's the one who has access to the CPU chip and the arm. And
so she is now, in effect, the Terminator.
Yes, absolutely. She is, in fact, the Terminator. She is mimicking everything that he did in the first one. She needs to change history, but she needs to change the future,
right?
Not the past. But there's a scene in here that I'm sure is not on yours, where they hide out in the garage when they're on the run in the car before they reach Enrique, and they take Arnold's CPU chip out of his head.
Yeah, definitely not. I didn't see that.
Okay, it's a great scene because he does this 3 times throughout the movie. He uses twins. So if you don't know, Linda Hamilton has a twin sister, identical sister. So the scene is a mirror shot of her, and you see the back of his head, but it's the animatronic head, where they open up this well in the back of his head and they pull out this big cylinder that has the CPU chip in it. But it's Arnold and Linda in the facing mirror, mimicking what's happening in the foreground. So it looks like you're just looking at a mirror, but it's really just them acting off each other. So when she puts a canister down, they're moving it. The same thing in the scene in the hospital where the guard and the T-1000 comes up behind him and turns into him. That's the guy's twin brother.
Oh, really? You can see that you can see that Stan Winston and his group are like, what? You have a twin? How can we use that? Okay.
Well,
I know.
I mean, they could have done it with we'll just film this guy twice and splice it together, a la Haley Mills in The Parent Trap.
Yeah.
But yeah, oh no, well, I'm going to save some money. I want all that money to go toward this T-1000. Let's make that as cool as possible. And then at the end of the movie, where the T-1000 turns into Sarah, that's her twin sister.
Okay.
So they're in the same scene together. So as revolutionary as this is, like, he took cuts and corners wherever he could to just continue telling the story without, because they had 20 months. Did you read this? When they finally gave him the green light to do this sequel, they said, by the way, we've already blocked it in for 91 July 4th weekend. You have 20 months to make this movie. He didn't even have a script. And Arnold did not want to do this. Arnold did not like the idea of the Terminator being a good guy.
Really?
He's like, this is like Darth Vader suddenly being Luke's friend. He says, I'm like on the top 10 villains of all time in like AMC movie listings. And they're like, no, I'm telling you.
I could see Arnold saying just that. I am top 10 villain all time on AMC movie listings.
He's hung his hat on his character up to that point. You know, everyone told him, he goes, no one's going to buy this. He goes, trust me. He goes, I'm telling you right now, we're going to make it work. Yeah. And at the end of the day, he had to, I think the producer actually threw in like an airplane or something, because it was made $15 million for this movie, which is interesting when you consider that he only had 700 words of dialogue. So he was basically paid $21,000 a word. Hasta la vista, baby alone was $85,000. So on paper, they were like, all right, let's go. And they're like, what, are you kidding me? So ILM, they had to go from like 6 employees to like 35. They actually stressed out the LA energy grid when they were trying to render this stuff. It's never been done before. They walked out of the meeting looking at the storyboards going, how the fuck are we going to do this? They're just like, yeah, we can do that, Jim. And they walk out of the room going, I don't know how we're going to do this.
But Sarah, I think, gets through to Miles because she convinces him that he's got to destroy.
Well, she does this breakdown. She literally she shot this guy. She's infiltrated the house. She's gunned him. She's shot up his computers. His family is in there. She has them all at gunpoint. And he's like, just leave my family out of this. And I think at that moment, she's like, her humanity comes back and she's just like, what am I doing? Like, she literally realizes like you said, she is the Terminator.
Yeah. So she can't kill him herself. Arnold comes in and then, to prove her story, rips off the skin from his hand.
Yeah. He turns really quick once he sees the arm. He's like, son of a bitch, there it is.
Yep.
That's the thing I've been obsessed with. He's obsessed. Yeah.
So then he realizes she's telling the truth. Now he's on board to destroy all of his work. So then there's a long sequence in the Cyberdyne offices where the cops show up outside and there's a siege on everybody trying to blow up the office. And they're successful, actually. They actually do it.
Yeah. Yeah, this is actually a pretty intense scene.
Yeah. And at one point, Arnold gets the same gun that Jesse the Body had in Predator, Old Painless.
It's funny you mentioned that. I did read that James Cameron is responsible for the mandibles on the Predator character.
Really?
He suggested that.
Okay.
I'm like, this guy's everywhere. So, but yeah, and I mean, this is just as, it's an action sequence that they're just ramping up, and you think they're going to get away with it. And then Miles gets taken down.
And this guy is so good. Joe Morton is the actor. He's probably best known as the brother from Another Planet. That's because I was like, what has this guy been in?
Yeah.
that was his breakout role, but he's been in a lot of things since then. He's been shot numerous times by not only Sarah, but by the police.
You're right. His arm is in a sling.
But the police shoot him as well, so he stays behind, and he's got the switch to blow up the office.
This scene is just, I can hold this. And the guy's like, move! And boom.
So they take with them. They don't leave the arm and the chip there. They take it with them when Arnold and Sarah and John. Yeah.
You know what they didn't take with them? His severed skin from his arm.
Yeah.
Did they just leave it on that family's table? Because now the rest of the movie he's wearing a glove and his jacket is on, so you can never see the robot arm. Yeah. But I'm like, can you put that in the trash? Don't leave that here. Yeah. And this is where John's like, we got Skynet by the balls now. And I'm like, see, if they didn't put them on, you wouldn't have been able to grab them. But this is epic. The Miles death is an epic scene in this movie. Yeah. And again, it's just these action sequences just keep ramping up. And you're like, how much more can we do? This is exhausting.
Because now you get the bike jump from the building to the helicopter.
Yeah, Robert Patrick said he gives that stunt double. He goes, that guy made me look cool. Mm-hmm. He goes, because that was not me. And the one thing I never noticed, when he's flying the plane and he tells the chopper, and he tells the guy to get out, when he's loading the gun, he has 4 arms. He has 2 arms that are flying.
I was looking for the pilot. Where did he land? When you see the...
Oh, I know. That guy, yeah. That guy did not land. He was not a hero landing.
No.
But I'm like, well, if you could have done that, why wouldn't you have just had 4 arms the whole time? You just go full on Stitch.
That's pretty cool. That is. Yeah. I didn't notice that. I was
like, what? Yep. Like, apparently it's there.
Now we have a helicopter chase, a truck helicopter chase. And there's one shot where the helicopter flies under an overpass on the highway.
Did that. Yeah. They did that.
Wow.
That's that. I'm sure that there was some lawyer going, please don't do that. Insurance companies going, please don't do that. They did that. Now, some of that stuff is miniature work, but it's so well cut together you can't tell. But yeah, that was pretty. This chase scene is phenomenal. I mean, they steal the SWAT truck, which kind of looks like my office, except I have a lot less guns in the back. But yeah, I mean, he's just gunning down this truck. She's trying to get off rounds left and right. And then he slams on the brake and boom, helicopter right into the back end of this truck.
Right into the back of it. Now they switch trucks to a liquid nitrogen truck.
Oh, he steals the nitrogen. So again, back to the truck motif, because we get that, in the first one, but it's like an oil rig.
But it blows up, and whatever's in the truck, whatever, causes the T-1000 to freeze and break apart into a million pieces. But it's only temporary because it's
and again, this is beautiful. This is a combination of stop motion, of actors being covered in whatever stuff to make him look like he's frosted over, and they used an amputee. Some of these scenes where he's got no legs. And he's trying to move forward with just like his little stubby legs.
Now, speaking of that, this is also the part where Arnold gets his arm caught in the big cog and rips it off. So, yeah, it's still there. It's
still there. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But again, I put in my notes, why wouldn't he just imitate the Arnold model?
Yeah.
He's got Sarah dead to rights going, call out to John. You've touched her numerous times. We've already seen that these characters can emulate voices.
Yeah. Why does he need to tell her to call out to John?
Tell her. Is it just a humiliation thing? He doesn't really seem the type to kick someone when they're down. You just get your job done.
They also set up that, like, as he's stepping, he's like a chameleon. He's assimilating.
Well, I think when he reformed after the nitrogen, that he's now glitching.
Okay.
Where when he touched the railing, it immediately started taking on the shape of the railing. He's now losing control of his morphing abilities. Was my take that he's in need of a reboot.
But it doesn't stop him from jamming this steel beam into Arnold's head repeatedly. Brutal fight.
This fight scene is epic, and there's that one scene where the T-1000 gets slammed face first into the wall, and then he morphs back facing from his backside out. I mean, like stuff you'd never seen before. And it holds up
Yes.
so well. And like you said, Arnold's just getting a living crap kicked out of him. I think this was a late edition where they decided that Arnold's Terminator needed to be taken out for a certain sequence. And he wanted to come back in for reshoots. And Arnold's like, I'm on vacation. I'm going Christmas. I'm going to go hang out with Bruce Willis for Christmas. They shot that scene on Christmas Day of him pulling the bar out of his one because he's impaled.
Did they go to where Arnold was on vacation?
No, I think he came back. They had to go back on that set. And they shot those scenes to bring back that Terminator. So that
he probably didn't let them hear the end of it. I could have been on vacation on the beach.
All right, we'll give you another Humber. But this is also where he's literally, you think that the T-1000 is, she's just unloading on him. And he's got holes all over him or whatever. And then he just keeps reforming. She's out of bullets. And he just does that little finger wag. And I'm like,
no.
You're a jerk.
Like Dennis Nedry in Jurassic Park.
Yeah. But no, here comes Arnold. He's going to save the day.
So Arnold is died, but comes back because the light goes out in his eye and everything.
You see him like, how come the first one didn't have like some auxiliary backup power?
Yes.
So because it wasn't in the script. And
because he's got to have that big Gary Busey moment where he grabs the gun at the end of Lethal Weapon. Nope, you thought he was dead, but he's not.
But it's a great reveal. They think that's it. We're done.
But when Sarah shoots the T-1000 for the last time with the gun, and it really splits like its whole being apart, and you hear the screaming.
Wasn't that when Arnold with that last?
Was it Arnold or was it Sarah?
It was Arnold. She ran out of bullets, and that's what gave him time to reform. Okay.
But regardless,
finger wag.
The noise that it makes.
Oh, it's like a manatee or something. Yeah. I don't know what's going on there, but yeah, and again, that's a practical. His head's over here and his arms over there. He's like a scarecrow. He's like, my feet are over there, my head is over here, and into the molten lava he goes. And again, that's a fantastic scene. He's fighting, and then you just see the face come up, and then it kind of inverts on itself, and you're like, wow, that's it. Yeah, he's done.
There's no coming back for the T-1000 from that. Then they throw in the chip, they throw in the arm that they got from Cyberdyne, and then Arnold says, "Well, there's more evidence."
Yeah. No, there's one more chip, and again, that goes back to the garage scene, which is cut out of the theatrical.
Yeah. And then John is like, "Please, no, don't." And Sarah's like, "Yeah, I'm good with it. Okay, I'll press the button."
Yeah. Well, there's that scene when they're in Mexico and she realizes that, oh crap, this Terminator is a better father than anything I ever gave him.
Yeah,
like I guess this is the way it was supposed to be, but he can't self-terminate. You got to lower me in. How about you take off all those guns and stuff so I can use them to get out of here? Because someone's not gonna be happy when they see me leaving.
But Arnold was right in a way because this makes the Terminator cuddly, safe, and warm. And it is not the version that I fell in love with in 1984.
No, it's a completely, I don't think it takes away anything from the original Terminator. If anything, because again, going back to that garage scene, he talks about the fact that their learning capabilities are turned off by default. They have a mission and that's what they do. So you get the impression that they change his setting to allow him to learn. So when John is teaching him, the high fives or the, back off dillweed or whatever, that he's evolving. He's actually learning from his environment and he's learning from John. I still think this is a solid movie. I don't think it takes away from that original. It's a completely different, it's a different model. What waters it down are the subsequent movies.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm going to say, because at the end of this, it's an ending, the end of T2. Like, we have stopped Judgment Day, and that's where it ends. There's no, opening for another movie. And this is where it should have lain.
So in your version, this is the one where it's just literally cuts to, like, the roadway. And
exactly, it ends.
Okay, here, in this special edition extended version that I watched, was the original ending, which test audiences hated. And it cuts back to Sarah, now 60 some years old, talking into her voice recorder, sitting at the park, watching John, a grown man, play with his daughter.
And John is a grown man swinging on the swings.
John on the swings. Wee. And she talks about the fact that he's now a congressman and he's making changes, and that's it. Everyone can live a happy life. And it just cuts that, all good. And test audiences were like, this is horrible. So if you go back to when they first entered Cyberdyne, that's the sequence where they're riding riding up to the facilities. You see the road.
Yeah.
Like he just repurposed that and basically had her come in and loop this dialogue. He wrote it like overnight. They were 3 hours away from missing their deadline of releasing this movie so they could start making prints for the July 4th weekend.
Wow.
3 hours. He's like, that is a hard deadline. Like once you say, I need this film in my hands by X date in order to be able to start making these prints. Because back then they were all film. They had to be processed. They had to be printed. They had to be shipped out to all these movie theaters in time to play. Crazy. And so you hear about all these stories about how just these obstacles that they had to overcome. And they're basically creating technology on the fly here. And it's funny because, the theme of the movies are, technology is dehumanizing us. And yet, we're creating new technologies to make this story happen kind of a thing. So once again, you're like feeding into this loop. But 20 months. Yeah, I think he was paid $6 million, Cameron. As I said, Schwarzenegger ended up getting paid 15, but he was given this Gulfstream airplane, which is like a $14 million plane. I think he made out all right.
Well, the movie made out all right. On a roughly $100 million budget, it made $500 million.
Wow.
So not as profitable if you look at the budget and the gross as the first one was.
No,
but still.
Again, that first one was an indie film. Cameron, he was the first one to ever make a $100 million movie, which was this movie. And then he was the first one to ever make a $200 million movie, which was Titanic. So you see this guy coming and you're like, oh, he's going to spend. Look at what he's doing with Avatar now. An entrepreneur and he's an innovator in the sense that he takes what he's made and he's constantly looking to make it better. He's putting his money back into this technology. He's creating Digital Domain, which is like an FX house, the Lighthouse Studio. So Lightstorm, I think it was. So his name is attached to something. I'm going to see it.
It's quality. Say what you will about James Cameron.
Right.
His movies
we've
are
heard
quality.
People talk about, but again, when you're that level and you expect that, when people drive themselves, they expect everyone around them to have the same level of motivation. And it's frustrating sometimes when, it's paycheck.
When your crew is going on a tea break, as what happened with Aliens.
I did read there was an interview with him. Hold on one second. I want to get this right. I have so many notes, dude. I have like 13 friggin' pages of notes. At one point, he was doing an interview with this magazine, and on his desk, he was writing the script for Terminator, Rambo First Blood Part 2, and Aliens all at the same time.
Oh.
Again, this guy's got his fingers. You don't realize, his power that he has now.
But this was, as you said, released on July 4th weekend. Enough had happened in between the first movie and this one where it became such a phenomenon that it was able to open on a July 4th weekend as well as it did. I saw it on opening weekend, so yeah. I bought into it. I wanted to see this badly. So
the minute that they greenlit this, because again, there was rumors every time Arnold's on some talk show talking about his new movie, inevitably it comes up, when are you going to make the new Terminator? Oh, talk to James. He's working on it. Well, he wasn't. But what they did is they immediately contacted ILM and they said, we need a teaser. So it was on the Blu-ray, which is just this scene machinery or whatever. And it opens up and there's Arnold as the Terminator, and then it cuts T2 coming this summer kind of a thing.
Yeah.
That was it. That's all you needed. I'm back in. Don't show me any film because it hasn't been shot yet.
And not that the first movie didn't worm its way into the, public consciousness or pop culture at large. But this movie really cemented itself because you had like a Universal Studios attraction after this was
Yes. Yeah, I
released.
wish that was on the disc.
Now, have you ever experienced
I
that?
did. I did.
That was awesome, right? Because
Yeah,
it's
that was
a
fantastic.
mixture
And
of
he
a
comes out
3D
on a
movie,
motorcycle.
because it's like a Cyberdyne. It's set up like a Cyberdyne presentation. Because there's an actor at the very beginning. You go into the building, as walking through Universal, if you want to go and see this Terminator movie, you go into the loading area, and this woman, an actress, comes out like a real person right there as a Cyberdyne's representative. And she's saying, you're about to see a presentation of, Cyberdyne and our latest technology. And there's like, propaganda playing behind her and everything. And it's just this really immersive experience. Even before you get into the theater, you sit down and all of a sudden all these Iron Man type robots or RoboCop type robots come up from the floor. And they're all shooting at targets in the theater. And that's before the movie even starts.
Right.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, that ran for quite a few years there.
It's got Robert Patrick in it. It's got Arnold in it.
Yeah, they came back and filmed new stuff specifically for this
It's got
ride.
live actors that are supposed to be Arnold, Linda Hamilton, and John Connor, like riding motorcycles across the stage.
Yeah, that I do remember.
At one point when they actually, it's probably, a 15-minute experience, the whole thing, or maybe 20 minutes. But the end of it is them blowing up Cyberdyne in the future, and the whole theater, the floor, like drops about a foot or something with the explosion. It was just a very cool thing. Unfortunately, not there anymore at Universal Studios. Another thing that I remember from the release was that the video that came out was the teaser of the very highly anticipated new Guns N' Roses album after their debut.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
The song was called You Could Be Mine, and that came out like months before the Guns N' Roses album came out. So it was a teaser for the album, yet it was the theme song of this movie. Yeah. And it has the lyric, with your bitch slap rapping and your cocaine tongue, you get nothing done. Nothing says Terminator like that lyric.
Oh, that's good.
But yeah, that plays over the final credits, and it plays at some point in the beginning when John and his friend are riding around.
Yeah, they're riding around. Yeah. Like they got an advanced copy on their cassette player.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I thought it was great. I always have, but I just never held it in as high regard as I did the first Terminator. There's just some kind of, the first experience was the best for me anyway.
Gotcha.
But I will totally go along. I will agree. If you want to induct this baby,
I am absolutely going to induct this into the 5 bucket club. We're talking 10 buckets today.
Yeah. Let's do it. There you go. Inducted.
There you go.
Into
the
5
listen,
club.
It walked away with 4 Academy Awards. All in the special effects, best sound, sound effects, visual effects, editing, and makeup. So everything he did, again, watching these 2 movies back to back, there's a lot of parallels. You're like, 7 years and he made a completely different story, but he didn't. And there's a lot of themes that carry back through this. And I think, him walking away and not being a part of some of these other movies, they should have just left it alone, but it's a cash cow. And especially after this movie, it's too much money left on the table. I mean, you're making TV shows, which is Sarah Connor Chronicles was actually a pretty solid show.
That was good. That is the one that I will say was worthy.
Yeah. Yeah. No, even the third one, like they tried something different, but at that point, it's like we're just trying to make action pieces for the sake of action pieces. John Connor's completely inconsistent as a character. The timeline gets convoluted, and especially when you get into this dark fate when, again, you've got this Terminator that's retired and has a wife, and he calls himself Carl, and he sells insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I came out of retirement for that. So, yeah.
I hope he still has that pendulum.
Well, he never has to worry about ED.
Unless she chooses to put a cigar out on a.
Maybe I think he likes that.
So that was quite a lot to unload here.
It is a lot to, and we
But
left so much on the table. There's so much more that we could talk about, but it's a lot to take in. We do our best. But go check it out. And then I apologize now on the back end. Spoilers.
yeah, if you've never seen this,
Wait a minute. What? He's a good guy in the second movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, you and Arnold are both shocked.
So are we going to do what else we did on this one?
Yeah, I told you I was going to go Sports Center for about 5 minutes.
Yes,
not
you
even.
did.
I just want to give it. So I'm still catching up on Andor, and I will be 2 episodes down on Last of Us. So I still have to play catch up on those. But I do want to give a shout out to the New York Knickerbockers who just beat the Boston Celtics and are off to the Indiana Pacers. For whatever reason, I find a lot of entertainment in watching basketball. But the Knicks, I don't care about any other team. A couple of years ago, my nephew used to come to my house and he would force me to watch the Knicks. And at some point I said, well, we should probably root for at least one New York team. So I chose the Knicks, and they've been really bad for quite a few years. And now they're headed for the finals, and I'm enjoying it. The nice thing about that is that I think they play like 88 games. So you're kind of like, oh, they lost. I don't lose sleep over it, unlike football where it's 17 games, so every one of them counts. So I'm enjoying it. My children and my wife laugh at me because I've gone from not being a sports guy to I listen to way too much sports radio now, just enough to be dangerous. And I only talk about it with certain people, my son and whatnot, but it's a secret pleasure, I guess.
There could be worse secret pleasures.
It is true.
Let me see. I just watched for the first time last night, as a matter of fact. I found it on Amazon. The Rest in Peace Department, RIPD.
Oh, yes. Are we talking the first one, not the second one?
The first one, yes.
With Ryan Reynolds and Jeff Bridges.
And Kevin Bacon as the bad guy.
Yeah, that might have been the first time that he played a bad guy. He's done it a couple times now.
I'd never seen it before. I didn't really get it, like with the whole deados and all these monsters are the things that stick around after you die, and if you stick around too long, they become monsters. It just seemed very convoluted, but it was fun to watch.
It is a fun movie.
You know, the whole Jeff Bridges, Ryan Reynolds dynamic.
Yep.
So it was fun. It was a fun one.
It is a fun movie. I have to go back and revisit that at some point. They did try to make a sequel, and from what I remember, it was horrible. Yeah. But no, you're right. Ryan Reynolds and Jeff Bridges, the top of their game on this. They interact with each other very well.
Yeah, they do.
So
they do.
It's fun. It's a fun movie. Check it out.
So talking about fun, what are we going to do next time?
Are we going 5 bucket again?
I think we are again. Another classic that we are
just
covered.
Hitting all of the. We get the hip rate here.
Yeah, again, one of the biggest movies of all time.
1982.
1982. If that doesn't give it away, I don't know what will.
All you had to do, well, I don't know. Last time we talked about 1982 on this show, it didn't go over so well.
No, it didn't. It didn't.
That's all right.
E.T. is what we're covering next time.
Ouch. The extraterrestrial, huh?
I'll be back.
Does he say that?
No, I'll be right here, he says.
I'll be right here.
Yep.
No, you don't. So are we going to look for it? We're not going to look for the director's cut of this.
I'm going to look for the original because that's what I want to watch.
I think we want the theatrical.
Yeah.
Yeah. E.T. again. 340 plus episodes in, we've never covered
it. Never covered it.
Oh man, I have to tell my sister not to listen to this episode because she was traumatized as a 4-year-old.
Oh, I was traumatized by that one scene with E.T. dying. Yeah.
Spoiler.
I was 11.
No, listen, I was 14 and I still tear up. I can watch the last 2 minutes of this movie and tear up. So speaking of which, I know we didn't do any news, but the new Superman trailer dropped. James Gunn's Superman coming out this summer.
Now, this is not the teaser with
this is a full trailer
numerous times. Okay.
No, this is a full trailer now, and I happened to see it the other day, and damn it, he's using that John Williams score, and it just got me. And so I said something on social media and was immediately lambasted by all of my quote unquote comic nerd friends telling me that I was being played. We know better, right? And I'm like, I'm just hoping for a good movie. Well, you're never going to touch the Christopher Reeve Superman. You can't. I mean, okay, fine, whatever. My James Bond's always going to be Connery.
Yeah.
Okay, well, he's not here anymore.
What I am apprehensive about is that all these other characters that are being brought into this, like, I'm like, is this going to dilute Superman?
Here's my thinking is that they may be an opening sequence to just establish that there are other superheroes in this universe, because we are kind of resetting the DC universe, the DCEU. I don't think this is just pure speculation on my part, because I'm thinking that they are not going to be centered to the main storyline. You may get an opening battle where you're introduced to some of these characters, some galactic threat, just to establish the fact that there are other superheroes in this universe. I could be completely wrong. James Gunn, for the most part,
I just don't want I don't want Superman to be like a bit player in his own movie. That's all I'm saying.
No, yeah, I get you. I do like the fact you got Nathan Fillion playing Guy Gardner, who is just the jerkiest Green Lantern ever. And all these fans who cry for years and years, I want a comic accurate representation on the screen. So he gives it to them and they're like, this guy looks like ass. It's like, yeah, that's what he looks like. That's what he looks like in the comic books.
Oh, well, he does have a certain Prince Valiant vibe going on.
He's got a horrible haircut.
Or more like Mo from the Three Stooges.
Hey, Mo, it's Superman. So you can't have it both ways. Anyways, I hope you are right. It needs to stand on its own. I think that Crypto is going to be playing at our heartstrings. If he hurts that puppy in any way, shape, or form, the fans may revolt. I don't know. So, but we'll find out. But yeah, I immediately got attacked by numerous people that I'm a sucker.
Maybe they're the suckers. Maybe
no,
they'll be singing a different tune.
I think if you're going into this movie with apprehensions and negativity to begin with, you're going to come out with negativity. We can't just enjoy stuff now. Just give me a movie. I just want to be entertained.
Yeah.
So as we tear these movies apart,
we take classics.
Why does the Terminator have a penis?
Yeah.
Really, dude? Did Janet Maslin bring that up? So anyways, all right. Well, that was actually very special and very fun.
It was.
That was a lot of homework.
Yeah.
And that's my fault though for waiting until the last day.
A bit sad as we've now done it and we can't do it again.
I feel the same way. You mentioned this before, which is I'm excited to talk about this movie, but I've waited so long to talk about it, knowing that once we talk about it, we'll never talk about it again.
Yeah.
And I truly get this now. Not even like in Star Wars or Back to the Future, but after sitting on these movies for so long, I'm like, that's it. We've talked about it now.
Yeah. And both of them at the same time.
Yeah. And I'll lament the fact that, I should have brought this up, or I should have.
Yep.
Yeah. No one's going to listen to us for 5 hours. All right. E.T. Next go around.
E.T.
Candy. Did we do Reese's Pieces yet?
We did. That was like one of the first ones we did, I think. Yeah. You did it, as a matter of fact.
I think I probably did. We still haven't talked Reese's Peanut Butter Cup, so.
No, but, again, if this is a standalone $5 we wouldn't be doing a concession anyway.
That is true. You are correct.
Yeah.
We will be talking about the fact that M&M said no. They're kicking themselves all the way to the bank.
Still kicking themselves.
Yeah. We don't want to be associated with this stupid alien movie. Yeah. This kid's movie. Moron.
Reese's never really capitalized on it like they did at that time.
I was going to say, I don't think.
But over the years, I would think that they'd want to keep E.T. as a spokesperson to this day.
I don't know. Do kids even today know who E.T. is? It's not like there was a branch off TV show or cartoon. Or
if we still had Reese's Pieces commercials, they would know who E.T. is to this day.
That's the alien that hawks those peanut butter things. Speaking of, we just keep going on and on. But have you seen all this promotional stuff that the studio's doing for Lilo and Stitch?
No, I haven't.
They've got these animatronic stitches that are running around in the movie theaters, popping out of popcorn buckets and driving around in remote control cars.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, they're really stepping up their game on some of this stuff. I wonder if each theater gets one of these, or if someone just travels around and like
I would think that it's got to be like
stitch that pops out of a popcorn bucket.
It needs to have a bodyguard, right?
Yeah, because I take it home in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
How much is that? I'll write you a check right now. So, all right, that's it. We're done. Speak to you next time. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Bye. If you like what you just heard, be sure to follow TMI Confessionals of the Nerd Kind on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Spotify, or whatever you listen to your podcasts on. Also, be sure to email us at tmipodcast2018@gmail.com.
You can also follow us on all of our socials. We're on Instagram, X, Facebook, Threads. Just go to tmiconfessionalspodcast.com. All of our links are there. And leave us a 5-star review. See you at the concession stand. Hasta la vista, Jimmy.